Okay, so now let's see this new control that you've seen that you haven't seen before. Now, if you notice, I've already given it a name so that like you didn't have to, I wanted to, but anyway, notice I've used the CBO, the 3-letter abbreviation for combo box. You know what a combo box is like. You can select one of the options in that. Plus, you can also, if you like, enter something here in your text box. Both options are available. Now, it depends on your application. Would you only like the user to select something, or would you like the user to select as well as input something? So depending upon what type of combo box you need, we can change its property, but it's just a combo box. And the most important thing to notice in the combo box is that it has an array or a property. Let's not call it array right now. There's a property called items in it, which is basically a collection, right? So collection is like a collection, like normal English word collection of something. If you click on it, there is nothing right there in there right now, but when I want to put in, I can put in my data here, right? So what we'll do here is we'll kind of put a few options here that will populate your combo box. So you need not populate your combo box at all when your application run. You can add to it afterwards, which we'll learn after the midterm. But right now we'll work with this one. So I'm going to put 3 types of coffees, and because I'm not too good with coffees, I wrote them somewhere. Okay, so I'm going to have regular, and putting them in different line means they're different items. Okay, so the property is called items, and the array is called collections. And collection simply means collection of something. You can think array is a collection, an array list is a collection. So all these are collections. So I'm going to put regular, decaffeinated. I hope I can spell it right, and special blend. So at design time, if you would like to, I'm doing it at design time, if you notice. At design time, if you would like to populate your combo box, this is what will be in your combo box when the application is run. So I've just put 3 types of coffee types here. And what I'm trying to do with this application today is the user comes and buys any of these in any of the 3 options. You can buy a quarter pound, you can buy a half pound, you can buy a full pound. And then depending upon whichever you buy or whatever quantity, the price will come and show in the price field, right? Now, since I'm working with more than 1 numbers, I have 3 types of coffees, I have 3 type of quantities. And of course, then there will be 9 prices. 3 into 3 is 9. There are 9 prices. So I'm going to keep these prices not in 9 variables, but in an array of 3 into 3. Because I'll have what is the size of my coffee and what is the type of my coffee, right? So I'll be using an array to save the prices of this combination. So there'll be 9 elements in all. 3 types of coffees in 3 weights. 3 into 3 is 9. So that's where I'll be using an array to store information. Also, as customers come and buy coffee, the information about which was sold in what quantity for what price, these transactions I will save again in an array. So that at the end of the day or end of the week or month, whatever it is, I can kind of create a report out of it. So Tim Horton says, how many coffees did I sell today, or what was, and so on. A printout can be taken. And because I'm doing arrays, I'll use an array to read values. I'll use an array to save my transactions, right? Plus also, because I want to do lists also side by side, I'll be saving my transactions just for the heck of it. It's not good at all, but I'll be saving my transaction in 2 data structures. 1 an array and 1 a list. All of you know that arrays are of a fixed size and they get memory during compilation, and you cannot change its size during runtime. Whereas a list is a dynamic structure. You can change the size of a list and there is no upper limit. With an array, there is an upper limit. How many do you want? And you can change the size once the program is running. It's a static allotment of whatever number of cells, whereas list is dynamic in nature. You can add, you can remove, you can change the size, and so on and so forth. So I'll show you both. Okay, so you'll be using arrays, you'll be using a list, and you'll be using a structure. Now, what is a structure, an array, and a list? A structure is a collection or a combination of elements of different kind. So for example, a student, I could create a structure for a student. Name of the student, a string. Program name, another string. Semester number, I'll just say 1, 2, 3, like numeric, an integer. Marks in the particular semester, a floating. You could combine all these together and create a structure for a student. Does it kind of recollect something? Your records in your SQL, right? In a database, it's kind of like a record, right? So a structure is basically analogous to a record in database programming. So we'll learn how to create that too. So for each sale that the company, that the shop is making, we'll keep the type of the coffee, which is a string, the quantity, which is again a string in our case, and the price, which will be a number, a real number. So I'm combining 3 different kind of data types into one, and that's called a structure. On the other hand, an array is a collection of homogeneous elements. I can either save all real numbers, all integers, all strings together, but I can't save different types in the same array. So that's how a structure is different from an array. Right? So a structure is very like a class. It's kind of like a class with a little differences, which you can read online if you like. But I'll refresh your memories where we've seen structures before. In C#, all the data types that you've been using, float, double, decimal, int, and so on, are being derived, are objects of structures. Remember, therefore, I said you could use that int if you like, or you could use int 32 if you like. You can use decimal with a small d as the type, or you can use decimal with a capital D, which is a structure. So structures are used in C#, and they're like classes, a little different. As I said, it's more theoretical differences rather than like you can just can't remember them. But a structure is nothing but collection of data and what you can do with the data. So the definition seems very similar to a class definition with certain differences. Okay, so we'll use all 3. So what I've done here is at compile time, I have populated my combo box. Let's do that. Okay, run it with me now, just to see how it looks. So if I've forgotten to do things, we will, but it should come in the center of the screen. The maximize button must be disabled. You should not be able to resize your form. All these things should automatically happen, which I've taken care of, right? Now, if you kind of see under type, see, there it is. That's how it will show up. So what you put in the items property of the combo box is being reflected here. Plus, you can also do this, because you see how my text box is white. So I can also do this. I can add data to it. Of course, I can't out of the blue. It won't do by magic. I have to have code to do it, but I can enter data in my combo box. Now, for this application that I'm doing today, I don't want the user to enter anything in that text box, because he should be able to choose only one of the coffees that is available, and then whatever type. Notice something else. By default, I didn't do it. By default, the quarter pound is automatically on. This has happened because of, come on. Okay, this has happened because of the tab order. Oh, I have it here also. Please notice my tab order. Remember, head labels and all that don't matter at all. So even if you have 0, it really doesn't matter. It doesn't start from 0, but the inputs is where it matters, right? So notice my coffee prices group box has 2. Inside that 2, I have another group box called quantity, which is 2.0. And then I'm going from 2.1, 2.2, 2.3, and 2.4. Again, to remind you, remember, these should be one after another if you want the shorthand key of your label to work with your text box or with your combo box. They have to be one after. I do it one after another. The rule is should be greater than. I just do one after another, because if you have more than one inputs, then it messes it up. So that way I'm kind of okay. So because by default, this is what happens. If a radio button is first in the tab order, and notice it is first in the tab order, then it automatically is set to on. That's its, I don't know whether you want to call it a bug or whether you want to call it a property, that's what happens. Now, if you do not want this, for whatever reason, you don't want any of the radio buttons to be checked by default, one way to get around is change the order of your tab orders, and it won't be on. So instead of going from left to right, I'll go from right to left. I mean, I'll say, give the type of the coffee first, and then select the weight of the coffee, and that will take care of it. It will be fine. So just to show it to you. So I start from, so that's my 0, that's my 1, that's my 2, and I'll make this as 2.0, 2.1. These are output boxes. I've already kind of taken care. Tab stop should be false. I make this as 2.2. And then 2.3, 4, 5, 6 don't matter, right? So I've changed my tab order. Notice I've changed it from what it was. It should go here first, and then it will go here. Let's save this tab order and then run the application again. I don't have my quarter bound on now. I don't, right? So I don't know, what would you like to call it? Would you like to call it a property, or would you like to call it a bug? But you can do this. So if you would like to avoid having a radio button checked by default when your application starts, please keep in mind that it should not be the first one to be tapped, and it will work that way. So choose whatever, right? So why I did that? Because I wanted to show it to you that I hadn't made it on, but it was already on. But you have to keep in mind, if you want to do that, then please be careful that you take care of that in your code also. So by default, if I want to do that, and I'll do it just for the heck of it, because it's better to do something and then you have the option of saying, oh, I know how to do it. So I'm keeping it like that. Okay, so I'm going from choice of wait first to the type of coffee, and I'm keeping it on. And I should know that I've kept it on. And how will I do that? This is how I'll do it. In my load, I know it. So this is what I'll do. In my load procedure, so I double clicked on my form and this load event handler is available to me, right? A little smaller that you can please see a little more. There it is. So double clicking on the form will create the load event handler stub. It's created it for me. And since I have taken this option of saying that I will keep my radio button on, I mean, it is automatically on. Like I'm going to say my RDO, I think the first one was quarter pound, checked property is true. Why am I doing this? So that anybody who's reading my code knows that that's what happens when the program is loaded. So if you don't want to do it, change your tab order and you're good. There's nothing big in it at all. I just chose to do it so that I can show it to you. Okay. Right. So it's on by default by the virtue of being the first in my tab order. I've kind of written it in code also so that I don't forget when I'm programming that's my default start state. Right. Remember why? Because after clear, you should always come back to your default start state. And that gives me another advantage. I don't have to, I know that I have to make my quarter on and I'll make it. Otherwise, I have to make each one of them off, which is more work. Okay, so I just choose to do this. Okay, so I've done that in load. Okay, so now 2. I want to make this combo box a read-only, select-only combo box. So let's look at the property of this combo box. Select it. I've already given it a name. So we are using CBO for combo box. The type is the type of coffee, right? It's the type of coffee. So that's why it's called type. You could call it anything. If you come down the properties, there is a property called drop-down style. Drop-down style, the style of the drop-down of the combo box. Make sense? The property is called drop-down style. And if you forget what it means, if you select a property, notice how it will always say something at the bottom. Controls the appearance and functionality of the combo box, it says. Right now, it is drop down. That's its default. And that's how it looks. You can enter data into the text box. You can select one of those. Both options are available. I'm going to change it. Simple is just, it will all show together. It won't occur with an arrow. It all shows together. I'm going to change it to a drop-down list and see what happens. Now the user can only select from the combo box, cannot type anything into the text. Notice how it has gone gray? It was white. Now it has gone gray. The combo box. You can't enter anything in it now. Try to run it. Is it compulsory to do it? No, but that's what my application wants to, right? So you choose the type of list you want. Now the user can only choose. The user cannot type. I cannot, right? I cannot type. The special blend is coming because I typed S and it chose the S of the special blend. I cannot type anything. I can only choose one of these. And that's why I changed it from a drop down to drop down list. Okay, so that's the property which is important in a combo box. Do you only want to read from it? Like only select from it? Let's not call read. Let's say select from it. Or has the user the option of selecting as well as giving a new value into it? So we'll do the other one in another example. This one we'll leave at this. Okay, so that's what this style is. My tabs are okay. I've already kind of taken care of my tabs. Notice I go from quantity to type to find price to clear to print to exit. I never go to price. You should not go to price at all. Price is an output box. Output boxes should have their tab stop property set to false. And again, notice something else. I don't have any shorthand key in price. Why should I have a shorthand key? Will I ever access it? No, it's for output. So don't make these silly mistakes in your projects. You'll say, oh, how does it matter? You know what? At the end of the day, professionalism matters. It does. It's very important. The advisory committee tells us it is very important that your students write a grammatically correct resume when they submit it to us. This was brought up in the last advisory committee meeting before the reading break. And I keep saying, don't make spelling errors, write grammatically correct English. You just have to do it. And this reflects when you give your resume to your employers. And they say it gives a very bad impression if they see spelling mistakes or incorrect grammar. They brought it out to us. They said, this is what we are seeing. And I'm always stressing your comments, your outputs, everything should be perfect, because that's what reflects you. It reflects your work. So your resume, when you give your resume to an employer, whether even it's co-op, he's still going to be your employer. It reflects it reflects your professionalism in your resume. So take care of these small things. I'm very particular, and I dock off stupid marks for it. You know that. Some people will say she's so stupid. She'll dock off quarter mark for a wrong spelling. You know what? I'm just trying to bring it to your attention. How does it matter to me? Whether you get a quarter less or more, it doesn't. But I'm trying to bring to your notice these small things. It will help you in the long run, guys. It will. Believe me. Right? And they brought it. I was kind of saying, oh, good. I bring it to the notice of my students. Okay, so now my design is ready. Now let's go ahead and do a few things. So I had written the load, but I'll do a few more things. Okay, the first thing, don't forget, you should have your, you should have your name, date, and whatever at the beginning. You can always close this, you know that. And comments in C#, you can use the regular that you use in Java. You can go // you can go /*, right? And we'll put your name. Your name, not mine. Some of you are so lazy, you don't even remove my name from the code on the form. Like, how can you not do that, right? Anyway, you're students. That's how you're different, right? We all did it. I did it too. Maybe my teacher said the same thing. How can you do it? And the purpose is not assignment 1, assignment 2, assignment 3, guys. The purpose is the purpose of your application. What does your application do? And purpose is important. It's like saying your objective in your resume. What is your objective? What do you want to do? It's the same thing. You can make it wrong. You can say, oh, what Rita told me to write. Can you do that in your objective? You can't, right? So the purpose should be, what do you want to do? So this application allows a customer, the customer, or you can say user or whatever, right? Whatever you like. So the user can buy coffee in bulk in various quantities or whatever. Allows a user to buy coffee in bulk, right? Small, clear and short and neat is what I'm looking for. Okay. Plus, I'm also going to save my transactions, right? At least this application, all transactions will be saved. All transactions will be saved and can be printed. You can print them. So it's like, you can think of like Tim Hortons, right? I mean, that's a very big, this is a very small example, but that's what they want to, at the end of the day, this is how much coffee we sold. They have to keep their inventory, right? So they put all these transactions, they save them somewhere. Keep in mind, behind everything in this world is a smart programmer who has written some code, somebody like you. And that's what you're trying to learn, right? And you can manage it. So just do it right and you should be okay. Okay, so that's what I want at the head. So / single line comments, /* block comments, and in C# for the other comments, which we call Java doc, for document comments in C# you use the triple slashes, right? Okay, so there it is. Anything the using, I'm very bad at using statements in C# because they always come by default. You never have to put them, and so you're not too good at. I'm not too good at it. I'm good at Java because I know I've been doing Java more than I've been doing C#. But all your usings are here. Anything that you're using, the namespace, like your package, are in black, the rest are in gray. If you try to use something, remember all these IDs, thank God for whoever made them. They tell you, oh, this package is missing, and you can all do a using statement. So you don't have to remember anything. So the programmer is becoming lazy, but now you can devote more time on your code. Like you can think of those things. So keep that in mind. Okay, so let's start. Another thing that I'm noticing as I am marking assignment 3, you have to learn to use conventions. If variables need to use camel case, you have to use camel case. If they use Pascal, you have to use Pascal. You can make your own conventions. You cannot. You're not up there yet. When you are and you can write a new language, make your own conventions. For now, follow conventions. And 2, very important, where do I declare my variables? If variables are to be used throughout the class definition, declare them at module level. If variables are to be used inside a method, please declare them locally inside the method. Plus, you also can declare block variables if you like, inside fors and ifs if you like. If, the big thing is if it is better to be a local variable and you want to assign it a value 0, 1, so why would you put it inside a for loop? That's again wrong. So you should learn where variables need to be defined. It's like saying, oh, everything works. That's one attitude. Everything works. I'll put everything at the module level. I don't care. But the other thing says this works perfectly. This works in 10 minutes. This works in 5 minutes. So there is a difference, right? Where variables are created, when they are destroyed, and so on. It's all important. At the end of the day, a good programmer will take care of these things. Assignment 3, there were no marks. I'm not docking of marks. I can only try my best to give you whatever I have learned. The rest, I leave it to you. Okay, so I need some variables. And again, nobody says you will know where you need them when you start coding. Put them at module level. And as things change, as you code, and you say, oh, that's not where I want it, shift them, right? Nobody at day 1 knows where to go things. I mean, software is not built in a day. It takes months and sometimes years to build. It's a long process. Okay. So I'm going to need some module level variables, some global and some local variables, but I'll start with the first definition, which is new for you today. I'm going to create a private structure today. Right. So notice how as soon as I start the word struct comes. So struct is defining a new user defined data type. You're going to define your own type. You're going to give it a name. You're going to define a type. As if there's a type called decimal. There is a type called int32. There is a type called int64. You are now defining your own type, and you're calling the type whatever you like. I'm going to call it coffee sale. Please notice it's a type definition. So it will use Pascal naming convention. There. Okay. So a structure for now we will take. For this example, I'll take a structure to be a collection of heterogeneous elements. So they can be different. You can combine strings with numbers or whatever. It's just a collection. It's something like a common name, student. As soon as I say student, I say, oh, student will have a name. A student will have a roll number. A student will have an email. A student will have marks. So that's what I'm thinking. Like a class definition in a sense, right? So what are the attributes of this structure? The difference is in a structure, it's not, as I said, there are differences between a structure definition and a class. I'll use it as a data collection structure. So I'm going to put 3 things in it. The rules are all these members have to be public. There is no other specifier that you can use for members. So these are the members. I'm going to put a string as quantity. Why? We have half pound, quarter pound, and so on. It's a string, right? It's not a number. I'm going to put a type, which is of type string. And notice I'm using a capital S. You could use a small s also. There's a difference. The capital S is a class. The small s is a structure. You can use either. So it's not just hit and trial. It's just not being lazy or untidy. I exactly know what I'm doing. So if I use a capital S, I'm using the class called string. If I'm using the small s, I'm using the structure called string. Right? So class may have something extra, methods or events or whatever, but whatever it is, you can use either. So in C#, you can use either. But it's not just by chance. There are two different things. String with a capital S is a class, string with a small s is a structure. At the end of the day, you're declaring variables of that type. So I'm going to declare another one called type. That's your special blend, decaffeinated and regular. Okay, so that's the type. And third, I'm going to put a third member in my structure of type decimal. So again, if you want to use a small, notice there's a capital D and there is a small d. So the small d is a structure, the capital D is a class. And again, nobody stops you. They will both work. They will both work. If you bring here, see, it says it's a class. Notice how it says it is a class, system.string. And if I bring my mouse here, it will say, oh, it is still saying a class. It should say structure. That's strange. It should. This one, yeah, that is not right. It should say structure here, like it's saying in decimal. So am I wrong? Are they both the same? System.string. Oh, they are coming from the same. So sorry, I take back my words. I was right in the decimal and everything else, but for string, it is the same thing. Capital S and small s are okay. They're both classes. So it really doesn't matter then. Okay. My mistake. But here notice it's a structure, right? Represents a decimal number. Change it to capital D. Bring your mouse over it. That is strange. It doesn't change it to a class now. I can't believe this. Okay, so something is not right in what I'm interpreting. Anyway, we'll keep it at this. You can use either capital D or small d. Okay, and the price. Maybe I'm confused myself. So what have I done here? I've defined a new type. It's a new type. The type is called coffee sale. Like your types are called strings and ints and decimals and so on. It's called coffee sale. User defined type. It's not something in the library, not something in the language. It's something that I need for my code. So now if I want, and I will, I can declare variables of this kind. Like to declare variables of type int or decimal. I can declare variables of this type and they are called structure variables. And to refer to the three components or the members, I'll go variable name dot the name of the member. Same like class, variable name dot the name of the member. That's why they're so similar. Okay, so a new type has been defined. Okay, right? So that's your first new thing today, a structure definition. A structure is just a new type. Okay, so I'm going to do number of transactions that can be saved in the array. Keep in mind, when there was nothing else, arrays was the only option. It was the only data structure available in older programming languages. We never complained about it. Now with new object-oriented languages, since we have more options, we have array list, we have stacks, we have queues, we say, oh, array is so useless. Because why? Because one, it is restricted in size. You exactly can say, this is what I want. It's not dynamic in nature, it's static at nature. And the space to an array is given during compilation time. So at compile time, you say, I need 10 elements, that's all you get. You can't use more. You can use less, but you're still given 10. You're given 10, you can use less. The rest go waste. But we never complained when there was no other option, but now we complain because we don't want to waste anything. So we use a list, but I'll show you both. So the number of transactions, I don't want you to use magic numbers in your code at all. And I'm going to declare a private constant. You can call it whatever you like. It's of type int, and constants in C# use the Pascal naming convention. Pascal means they start with the capital letter, every word with the capital letter. And I'm going to, just because I don't want to go too big, I'll go 5. Because the more I put, then the more inputs I'll have to show you. So I'll restrict it to even 5 is more than what I want to do. But anyway, so I've declared, these are called named constants. Again, I would prefer that you use named constants in your code because one, they give you easy readability. Maximum transaction makes more sense than the number 5 in your code. And 2, it gives you flexibility. If you change your mind and you want to make it 50, that's all you need to do. You don't have to search your code. Where was the 5, the magic number 5, and change it to 50 everywhere. So named constants give you 2 things, readability, which is very important for human beings, and flexibility, which is important because one time, one job kind of stuff. So I always will use named constants, and I would like you to use named constants in your code. Okay. So in assignment 3, I had given you a constant 0.15 as your tax rate. Still, discounts for the discount or whatever, students are still using 0.15 in their code. The whole purpose of the constant is lost, right? So I'm trying to learn these habits from day one. You'll never go wrong. Okay, so that will be my array, not 50. I'll stick to 5. Okay, so that's how you declare constants. You use the reserved word const. Private or public really doesn't matter because constants values cannot be changed. I'm keeping it private just for the heck of it. Keeping data private, you could make it public. You can even make it protected if you like, right? But we'll keep it at this. Okay, and I'm going to now create the array that I was talking about. So I'm just putting comments because we are doing this for the first time, arrays and so on. After that, you know better. Okay, I'm going to declare a private. Now I'm going to stick to private because data should be hidden from the outside world. Don't make your data public. We've always learned in OOPS, keep your data hidden and make your methods accessible. That's how object-oriented programming is. So I'm going to create an array here, and I'm going to call my array coffee sales, or sale even will do. It won't matter because it's an array. This is how you declare an array. So you put your square bracket with the name of the name. So what are you saying? What kind of array are you declaring? Do you see the type of the array? Okay, let's do this. Maybe this is more easy to interpret. What kind of array are you declaring? Int. That means all elements will be integers. What about this? All elements will be decimal. So what about what I wrote? Think again. Yes, every element of the array will have three parts to it. Quantity, type, and price. So the first array element, quantity, price, and type. Second element, quantity, price, and type. Third element, and so on. So you can declare an array of any type you like. You can declare an array of int, you can declare an array of decimal, of bool, of chars, of whatever you like, or of a user-defined type. And I've just defined an array of my user-defined type. So now you are declaring an array, and this is how you declare an array. So this is your type. What is my array type? Coffee, sale, or whatever. Call it whatever you like. I'm going to call it transactions. Coffee, sale. Again, names are important just because then they make sense. Okay, so you can call your array whatever you like. Please see that you follow the naming convention, the normal camel case naming conventions. So Pascal for constants and camel for variables. So I've called my array. The name of my array is transactions coffee sales. You could have just called it transactions, whatever. Coffee sales just tells me it is putting my coffee sales into it. The type of my array. Now, how many elements do I have? I haven't yet said how many do I have. I don't know. I haven't said anything. The left-hand side is only telling you the type. It says it is a type of the coffee sale. Each element of this array is of type coffee sale. And this is my coffee sale. Right? So every element has three items in it. So you can kind of think it of like this. So I have this array. It is of a fixed size. It has some elements which I haven't yet said, but I will, and I'll make them 5, the number I've chosen. The first element will have index 0. The last element will have index 4. Right? And each element of the array has three parts. So this is my first element. Transactions coffee sales 0 dot quantity dot type dot price. The sequence doesn't matter. You call them by names. Really doesn't matter. I'm not saying 1, 2, 3. I'm saying name, type, whatever quantity, whatever price. This is what I'm created. This is what has being not yet been created. It will. So when I say you use what, you want to create a new array, right? And of what type you want to create a new array of type coffee sales, sale, not sale. And how many of them do you want? How many of them do you want? You want this maximum transactions. Okay, let me put it in a different line if you can, so that you can see here. So line number 32 is declaring and defining. Both are being done. Declaration, if I don't have the equal to sign, I'm just saying, oh, there exists somebody. But when I say is equal to new, I'm also defining it and giving it space to. So when this program is compiled, 5 elements will be given to this array called transactions coffee sales. 5. Each element capable of storing 3 items. If you had written int there, instead of coffee sale, you can use whatever you like. You can use an int, you can use a decimal, you can use a bool, you can use whatever you like. If it was an int, every element is only has an int. So it depends upon what kind of array you are working. Okay, so I am here working with a single one-dimensional array, and the size of the array is 5, and the element indices are from 0, 1, 2, 3 till 4. So instead of using the magic number 5 here, notice how I have used the named constant here. Makes more sense to me. If I have to change it, I just go and change it here. Anywhere in my code, I don't have to bother. Where did I put that 5 magic number? They're called magic numbers. They don't have anything. So always give it a name, and then if you want to change it, you change it. So that's my array in which I'll be saving my transactions. Just because I want to also show you how to use a list. Redundant in my case, because nobody would want to put the same thing in 2 different places, but I want to show you. I can also save my transactions in a list. The difference between a list and array, one is static, one is dynamic. Static, space given during compilation time. Dynamic, space is dynamic changes during runtime. There is no upper limit in a list. So definitely you will go with a list because it's less work. You know what I mean? Like, you don't have to bother about, oh, how many do I need? Take it, add, delete, modify, whatever. How do you declare a list in C#? There are various kind of lists. There are various kind of lists. You will see there is a list, there is a queue, there is a stack, there is a sorted map. Is it called, or sorted list? I think sorted map. C# is also sorted map. All this information is available in your PowerPoint slide on Blackboard. Chapter 5 or 7, I forget. Anyway, I'll open it up, right? So just don't kind of, now since you will also be doing multiple choice questions, just now you cannot only rely, and you cannot either way. I cannot show you everything in an example. I can only show you a type. I can only kind of say, oh, here there is an array. This is how you declare an array. But I can't show you every type of array that is available in the C#. Every type of list that is available in C#. I can give you the push, the rest depends on you. So please keep in mind that now when you have to do multiple choice, fill in the blanks, true, false kind of questions, you have to read your PowerPoint slides. You have to have knowledge of the entire thing, right? That's another thing you have to, and all the PowerPoint slides are up on Blackboard if you don't know about it. They've always been there from day one of the semester. And I have opened some of them when I have used, like just to show you something. So all this information is available somewhere, that the lists are list, queue, stack, sorted map, and so on. And since I know you've done Java, I know you're doing it in advance, so you definitely can make a relationship, right? You know what a queue is, what a stack is, and so on. And if you don't, please ask, and I'll explain. It's not a big deal. Also available in C#, which is a little different from Java, and that's why I want to point it out, is something called an array list. So there is a list, there is an array list. In Java, the array list is dynamic in nature and it is generic. That means you can only store one kind of elements. Only ints, only any objects you can save in an array list. In C#, an array list can store mixed elements. You can store an int. In the same array list, you can store a decimal. In the same array list, you can store a string. So you can store different types. You'll say, oh, that's good, that's better. It's better. The problem, but there is, anything can be saved, right? So when you take out something from a list, you have to kind of say, who are you? Are you an int? Are you a decimal? Are you a string? They're all objects. Then you'll have to convert it into its right type before you use it. That's more work. How will you guess? Is it an int? So you'll have to do more checks on it. So list is of a particular type. You can put only certain kind of elements, only ints, only bools, only decimals, and so on. So they are said to be generic. You can only put one type of element, and that type of element goes into angular brackets. Right? So again, what have I said? I've said I have a list type. What are the elements inside the list of what type? The same type, coffee sale. And this is coming, for your information, this type is coming from the namespace. It will, as soon as you do it, this is systems.collections.generic. This is the namespace from which this class is coming, list. You will see that it will go black as soon as I use it. So notice the name of the class, namespace, systems.collections.generic. Whereas an array list comes from system.collections only. There is not .generic in it. It's a different namespace. An array list is a different namespace. And it's not even the default. They don't want you to use array list because programmers don't like the idea of putting everything in the same box. Shoes only go into a shoe box. You drink water in a glass. You don't drink water in a shoe, do you? Right? So same kind of concept. So why should you have a list that can save anything? But because that anything can be any object. And then you as a programmer will have to say, oh, the first thing I'm taking out is a shoe. The second thing is a glass. The third is a spoon. The fourth is a book. Like then the programmer has to kind of do all that. So they said, don't use it. So I'll stick to generic. And in generic, the main thing in generic is you put the type right here. So if you try to put anything but a coffee sale element inside this list, it will give you an error. I cannot put an int inside it. The elements of this list are of the type, that combination of those three elements. Okay. So let's create a list. You can call it whatever you like. And I'll call it, keeping the same thing, the transactions. I'll take the same name, but I'll add list in front of it just so that it's easier. Oh, what did I do? So I've given it the same name, except I've put list in front of it. That kind of tells me it's a list. So it has the same functionality as my array, guys. The main purpose is to show you both of them together in the same example. And of course, there is a big difference. One has a restricted size of 5. The other is dynamic in nature. One is allocated space during compilation time. The other has no space restrictions. It's all runtime. You can decrease it in size, increase it, whatever. It's dynamic. So one is static, one is dynamic, one is compilation time storage, one is runtime storage. Okay, runtime means as you need it. Compilation means when you compile the program. So you will be given 5 spaces. And how do you initialize it? How do you define it? You go new you go list, right? You need a new list of type coffee sale. And there you go. Oh, forgot my, when you do a new, you call the constructor. So new always calls the constructor. So this I've called the constructor of the list. That angular bracket is the generic property which says what kind of elements are you putting in a list. So you could have used the array list class, but it is not recommended to use array list because array list is not generic. You can put anything in it. And if you want to, sure, but I'm kind of using this. Maybe if a need arises, you want to build something like a room in which you can put everything, that would be an array list, right? So that is available. As soon as you do this, hopefully, and I hope I'm correct, notice how it has become black. So the using has automatically been activated. So therefore, you can't remember all the namespaces in C# as well as you can remember in Java. But again, in Java also now all your IDs are smart enough and they kind of at least tell you what is wrong. They give you hints, right? Okay, so there is my list. So I have declared a structure, I have declared an array, I have declared a list. I've used 3 new data structures in code. The array is saving elements of type structure. The list is also saving types of structure, but that doesn't mean that you can only save structures in an array or a list. You can have a list or an array of any of the basic data types you've done, or user defined types, or objects of any type. Okay, it can be anything. In Java, these lists can only store objects. Here in C#, it can be basic data types because remember the basic data types are coming from structures. So in a way, it's the same thing. Okay, so right, you can always bring your mouse over it. It will tell you from where it is coming. It will give you a little bit of information about it. It represents a strongly typed list. This is called strongly typed. You have given it a type that can be accessed by index 0 to whatever, right? You can do that. Plus, it also has methods. You can add, you can remove, all those methods are available. Whereas those methods are necessarily not available with array, right? You don't have those methods. That's another advantage of using these dynamic structures. You can just use any of these methods, the normal methods, add, delete, count, and so on. They're all available. We'll use them today. Okay, so that's how I define a list. And there are some other variables I'll be using. One, I've used which radio button will be clicked. That information I've done this before, but I've used a button variable before. Today, just for the heck of it, I'll use a string. I'll keep the name of my selected button just to show you something else. Instead of saying if this was checked or this was checked, else if this was checked. If I have the name, then I can write a switch statement and do it. It's much easier, right? So you can always use if radio quarter button is selected, else if this is selected, else if this is selected. So if you have 10 radio buttons, you'll be writing nested ifs 10 times and so on. By keeping its name or the button type itself, then I can put a switch of this and then I can write. It's just easier, more easier to read. I mean, the logic still remains the same. You have to see which one, but at least you're saving yourself time saying if else, if else, if else, and so on. It's just easy to do it this way. So I'll keep the name of my button that you select. I only have 3, so it's not a big deal. I could have used a nested if. But if I had 10 or 20, or if there were choices, it's just easier to do it. So I've used the button type before. I've already done an example. So this time I just kind of went with using the name. And of course, the transaction number for my array. By default, you should know by default, though again, I'll put it for you. That's also its default value. By default, it's also 0. All module level variables, numeric variables are assigned the value 0 by default. Booleans are false, objects are null. Like in Java, same thing, right? I've written an equal to 0. I don't need to. I really don't need to. So I'm saying that my transaction number will start from 0. Why am I keeping this transaction number? Because an array is of a fixed size. I can't put more than maximum transactions in it. You just can't say 0, 1, 2. Just can't keep adding to the array. Before you add to the array, you'll have to check, are you within indices 0 to maximum transactions -1. So I need a transaction number. If you have used arrays in other languages, it will make sense, right? So the transaction number will tell me at which position am I saving my transaction. So it starts from 0, then it will be 1, 2, 3, 4, and I cannot save more than 5 transactions. It should stop at 4. If you try to do that, you will get an index out of bound exception, and the program will terminate. So you have to take care of it. So we'll again do try catches today. Different way of doing it. Okay, so those are my variables that I'm going to use as I need them or when I need them, or if I have to change their place to a local, I will. But I think I'm okay since I've done this with the other section. But anyway, you never know. The constructor is already written for you. Initialize component, again, refresh your memories, 5 weeks old memories. The initialize component calls that method that is in the designer file in which you've designed all that, the form itself. So that's the method that is being called. By default, also you should know that the program that runs when you run a program, a C# program, is the program.cs. And the program.cs by default will run your form bulk coffee sales, the sales you've made. Right? So there's no magic anywhere. The magic is in your head. Do it there. Okay. So that's my constructor, and I've just written a load here. And now let's do this. The name, what was the name of the variable? Selected button name. Since by default my quarter pound button is on, like I know it is because of my tab structure, I know it is on. I'm going to initialize its name also. Now the easiest way, you don't have to go back. You know it started with an RDO, right? Remember, that's the use of using convention, guys. I don't have to remember. I know it starts with RDOs. Whether you put the RDO in the beginning or whether you end it with RDO or you end it with radio button or you started with the word radio button, there is a convention I'm following. They all come together. I can make a very educated guess that if my quarter pound button is on, that's the name of my button. So first copy it, and since it is a string, put it in double quotes. This is the easiest way of, then you won't make any spelling mistakes. You don't have to kind of go and check what did you call it. Remember, that's the name I gave. So conventions help. Conventions are made for a reason. I appreciate people who created languages and made them and follow them. So that's my load now. So by default, my quarter radio button will be checked. And the name of that button, we know that. There's no guesswork here. The name of that button is RDO quarter pound. So I've done that because that is what happens when I run my code. I mean, I've kind of gone the opposite way. This is not making the radio button on. The radio button is automatically on because of the tab order. But if you wanted to, this is how you will do it. So if you want to make something selected by default when your form loads, you put it where? In the load event handler of your form. What happens when the form loads? Okay? Okay. 3:10. Give me 5 more minutes, then I'll give you a break. Okay, let's write the easy ones first. Is there anything else I've given you? No. So let's write the exit. And if you've forgotten how to write the other comments, which were called documentation, basically, that goes into an XML file, which reminds me I have to make my XML file true too. So what does this code do? The application. So you're basically saying, what does this method do? Who's the sender? The sender is the exit button. Your exit button is the sender. And what are these? These are just the event arguments. So writing these are not so tough. Okay. So remember, keep in mind, these are your doc comments, like your Java doc comments. And what was the format? I keep forgetting. You guys are better than me. How do you format it automatically? Control, no. Alt something. Oh, I wish I could remember. Oh, well. Alt F7? No. I mean, I want to indent my code, format my code. There is a way you can do it. Format, yeah. Somewhere it says format, and I can't see it now. Output can't be in build. Has to be somewhere in Control F. I think I can't remember now. Control AF, wasn't it? Control AF or something. It's not a single one. No, Control F is a find. Control Alt F, yeah, something like that. No, okay, whenever. Okay, now these comments are useless if you don't do this. So please go to your project. Please go to its properties. Please go to its settings. No, not settings. Publish. No, build. Okay. There it is. Thank you. In the build. And please check your XML documentation file. So your XML document, these are XML way of writing documentation. They start with I don't know how many of you know it, but if you look at it, see how they start with tag, like in HTML, and they end with the slash same tag. XML stands for extensible markup language. Like HTML is hypertext markup language. You have body, end body, head, end head, and so on. So this is more user defined. You can define your own tags, and these tags have been defined. You can use, I mean, when you're writing your own XML, but these tags have been already defined in the C# language reference manual, and you have to use them this way. You can't call it summaries or something. You have to exactly call it what it is called.
And we have to select the content which we need to indent, and then we need to do Control F or Control K.
Control K?
Or Control F. But
where did you find it?
Google.
Oh, in Google, okay. It should say something format here, guys. Come on, you can't all have forgotten it.
We need to select that and then.
No, without selection also it works. It should be in edit, advanced. There it is. Control K, Control D. I was looking, but I didn't go to advanced. It has to be in edit, right? So notice, if you want to format, the format selection is KF, is what you were saying, Devash, but you have to do them together, okay? Like, and then if it is a Control K, Control D, Control K, D. There. How can I remember it? K, D. Craft dinner? Okay, we'll remember it that way. There is where you see the Control KDs, right? So to close the application, remember how we did it? We said application.exit. There, so that's exit. What are the other easy ones that we can write very quickly? We'll write the find at the end, okay? What else do we have? Let's see, what else do we have? Clear, let's do clear. Okay, so what do you do in clear? In clear, you basically clear the input. That's what you usually do, right? You clear the input selections and the output. Okay, so what needs to be done in clear? Okay, this needs to be done in clear. The sender and so on, you can write yourself. It's not a big deal. I don't want you to forget it, but I don't have that much time. Okay, so your first input was your radio button. So your RDO quarter pound has to go back to checked. Doesn't matter who was checked or not checked. We are not concerned. This should go on. As soon as this goes on, the name of your button, where did we keep it? Selected something, we called it. There it is. Make it back to the radio button, the quarter pound radio button. So that's one. That's my default, okay? Okay, now what was the second box? The type. It was a combo box. So CBO combo box, CBO type. Now you'll say, how do I clear it? Right? What do I do about clearing a combo box? How do I remove it? The selection. Now, associated with the combo box and a list also, there's a control called list, not this list data structure. There's also a control called list, which you'll use again, and list box, okay? So with the combo box is associated a property called selected index. This property can take a value depending on which one you've selected. So if you select the first element in the combo box, it is 0, 1, 2, 3, and so on. So if you want to say clear my selection, you will have to set it to -1. That will clear it. So the selection is cleared. So whatever the user has selected has now been cleared. It's kind of the selected index. You'll say, do I have to do this? Can't I just say text? That's a different thing. But I have to clear my selection. Selected index equal to -1 means user hasn't selected anything. It will come handy when we check, has the user selected something? So I make it back to -1, okay? What was my third box? Price text box. So something to do with text, there it is. In its, it's a text box. You can just use the clear property. Right, so there were 2 inputs. I think there were 2 inputs only. I'll double check just in case. I don't think there was anything else. I think we are good. So the clear is a method that can be used with text boxes. Of course, you have the other option. You can say text price.text is equal to string.empty. But since clear is a method, I'll use this one. So this is what I've done. I've brought it back to its original state. So by saying selected index is equal to -1, the selection is nullified. Whatever the user has selected is nullified, and it will work. Let me show it to you. And then I'll give you a break. So let's run it. What is it?
Not a magic number.
But selected index is already a predefined constant in code. So I have to give it a value, okay? Right? It is already a predefined constant. Okay, so see what happens. I go this, I've changed this, and I've changed this, right? Of course, the rest of the code will not work. I haven't yet found the price, but the clear should work. So when I do a clear, I should do this. It should come back to quarter pound and my type is deselect. That's what we've done. I can't show you price yet because there is nothing in the price yet, but that will work too. Okay, we'll take a break and then we'll come back and do our find, the important one. And of course, I'll add a few more printing. Okay, take a break, come back in 20 minutes, please. So let's do it 3:35, okay? Oh, and let me put this on offline, no, okay. Lesson 5, okay. So I think all I have to do is, I've already set it. It's going to GitHub, lesson 5. And then we'll sync it, right? Perfect. It's on GitHub, guys, under lesson 5. It's been days since I talked. Yes.
Sorry, I just want to know that why we are like every time we're defining our selected button.
Because when code comes to see which one to find out the price, I'll have to see what did the user select here and what did he select here. This I can know by the help of selected index. And since I'm keeping the names of which one was selection, I'll say if this is this, then do this. If this is this, then do this. I mean, you can write the whole thing. You can say if quarter pound radio button is checked. Instead of checking it there, anytime I change it, I just put that name in a variable. Then I can use the name of the variable. Then I don't have to write if so many times.
Why we're not defining it? Okay, so you're defining it at the class level.
Oh, you mean the variable? Yeah, because it will be used in more than one methods, in event handlers in my code. If I only use it in one method, I'll move it as a local variable.
Yeah, I know what you mean. So if like we are giving like audio quarter pound. Whatever.
Yeah, that is the name of this button. Yeah,
okay,
there it is. Yeah, yeah.
So we didn't define the other one. Can't we divide all of them at once, or you're just doing? They
have to have different button. They have to have different names, right?
Yeah, that's what I mean. Yeah.
They are different. The names are different, but you're keeping the name in a variable. Yeah. That variable is called selected radio button name. That's all. So it will be easy. You'll see when I write the code, you'll appreciate it when I write it. Then you will say, oh, why did she do that? I won't have to write so many ifs, you will see. Okay? Okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome. It's like coming back after a vacation and you haven't spoken for so long.
Yeah.
Like we used to stand there out in the cold, but you didn't speak a lot. You're like. It wasn't a pleasant experience, but whatever has to be done, it has. Like otherwise, things never get done, right? So hopefully now, yeah, I mean, you have to devote something. The students will never go on strike. Like in India, they do because. But here it's so much more. At least they've given the option that if you want to withdraw from the semester, you can. It's a
Now
good
you're
semester.
back the whole semester.
The whole semester. If they allow you to do
Even the reimburse doesn't make sense because if I drop the course now and you give me back my money, the money's going straight out.
No, not much. You can't drop the nice courses. You have to drop the entire semester.
So now you have to reapply.
Reapply and
repay.
pay that. It's only that. Yeah, I think it's only that. It's kind of free. And the students are ready. Yeah, for some class. But if the students are ready and we can do something online, that can be taken. I can put an example on and I say that and I can just.
Anything I would want to be reimbursed or in-class hours that have happened. Because for this class, you missed 21 hours.
Because you missed 3, you were behind the Tuesday, right?
Oh, no, less than.
No, no, less than
no.
21, 9 now. That Tuesday was a holiday for everybody, you know what I mean? But you missed 2. Everybody has missed.
Right there.
3 empties.
Yeah, but for some of our other classes, we just need to get more. Because for my project management for IT, he's been going to jury duty for 2 weeks. That's already 6 hours on top of that. And then the strike.
Now you can go duty on appeals, because
No,
when
you
you're on
can't.
duty, you can.
There's
You just
nothing-
represent it over,
I'm
right?
not upset about it.
Yeah.
Give us at least a little bit to do, but there's nothing going on. And it was quick, snappy, yeah.
I got duty, and thankfully at the end it was cancelled, but that's what they said, you can move out of the house and live in the house.
I still know where all
It's
this.
not easy, like it's not easy.
I know he wasn't.
Also not
Потом
easy.
пошла на, потом сходила в деканы.
Mm.
Декан сказала, короче, я там, короче, сейчас я буду писать имейл.
Just extend it, like, for 2 weeks.
Сделала accommodation, сделала.
All they have to do is, if they have to do all this, they could have done it like on day 1. Why do you?
Придется, наверное, поработать. Вот.
But I don't have anything to say. I just feel like-
Завтра
I totally understand why there's no answer. I don't blame them at all,
Yeah, but
but it's still really inconvenient for me,
И потом я еще пошла на урок. Вот, на уроке тоже.
especially
And now
when
see-
transfer students.
And now see, it's not like they're given back 2 weeks, but they have, but there's so much work, there's so much stress, like, and they can move holidays. I just didn't want number in March, whatever it is.
Пока это на 2 недели, сказали,
And we are very worried about students as soon as.
I would have also.
Like, 1 week was okay, 2 weeks was okay.
When I was just.
And some colleges don't have any teachers. Out of the 20 colleges, 50% have a English and they lost 5. We were at least happy when we had only, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
We've saved a week.
I was happy about that. But it also crossed the reading week, because I'm like, okay,
And I think we'll be back up to that's what I thought. We'll be back.
that's what I thought. I thought by reading week it should be solved.
And it could have.
2 часа, он полностью надо разряжаться, все не нужно порядка. Я это зарядила вчера вечером, сегодня мало того,
And you're not bad at least.
на мои программы, я сегодня
I
устанавливала,
mean, some courses will be a problem, but some courses will
мало
be.
того,
I
что я
do because I know
вечером
that
работаю
you're
больше 6 часов.
both of them will be. But Jerry is
Я,
teaching
вот у
fundamentals.
меня сейчас запущена виртуальная машина, виртуальная, ну, прикинь, если, короче, у меня работает одна система, ну, маковская,
And then you have
и
Java
еще
after
работает
that, so your
Windows.
fundamentals on.
И внутри Windows работает огромнейшая, тяжелейшая программа, которая там 20 гигабайт весит. И у меня 50, и она у меня вот работает уже на протяжении этих 6 часов, потому что у меня был Windows на обоих уроках. И у меня 50% зарядки. Это охренеть можно. Нет, он такой, как у тебя по размеру. 13 дюймов, такой тонкий очень. Так я себе специально еще пасенький делаю. Весит всего килограмм с чем-то. А он вообще, мама, он такой тонкий, вот чтобы ты понимала, у меня ой, такое вот расстояние в закрытом состоянии. Вот он вот такой вот. То есть там, я не знаю, миллиметра 3. Ну, 5
For even use
в закрытом состоянии. Он очень маленький, очень легкий.
What is it even used?
LinkedIn. Is it actually
Ну,
active?
нет, у многих
Oh, yeah, it is. My son got
большой
it. Mine, I don't
они
use it
стоят
actually, because I'm not looking for a job. I'm not trying
Мак
to
стоит
do
1000, такой, как у меня, стоит где-то долларов 600-700. Они, во-первых, стоят дешевле, во-вторых, да. Ну вот, и в-третьих, помощь не буду, чем у меня. У меня, в принципе, как для таких обыденных нужд, ну, как бы, понятно, я могу на электрическом. Нет, я не Mac Pro брала, я хотела взять Mac Pro, но я не взяла Mac Pro, потому что у меня было того, что я хотела. У меня было того, как я вот. Нет, я взяла Mac типа Pro. Ну, там был 15-го года и 17-го года. Я хотела взять 15-го года, потому что он как раз, знаешь, типа, оптимальный, быстрый Вот, но а на 17 там они накрутили кучу всего, чтобы глобально было. Ну, то есть он стоит $700 дороже, то есть он стоит 1700 плюс налог. Ну, то есть почти по 2000 условно. Мы переплачивали 1000 за что, ну, как бы, и мне особо не надо.
She might
Ну,
use
если бы, окей, если бы я, знаешь, если бы я
the Mac version of Visual Studio.
планировала на нем.
The issue for the other class, I have to use it on a Windows machine because the Mac version doesn't have specific things. So I'm just using it on the Windows machine. But because it's on the external, because it's a parallel.
Мощность будет примерно такой же, как у меня вот
So you can have a virtual machine on
после
your
апгрейда.
Oh, sorry.
No, the virtual machine is on here, so the Windows is
Он,
actually,
во-первых,
but the software that's bound to me is on.
Когда, то есть, мне там даже условно половина программ
They just started, so it should take a little bit of time.
Во-вторых, он очень тяжелый. У меня
Running it. The Mac one, at least it's right after so many years.
условно, я не могу, ну, блин, стоимость химии по карте, но он огромный. Я еще когда покупали компьютер, я попросила, давай купим маленький, типа, вы не покупаете огромный монитор, и
Just
может
hate
быть
running
компьютер
anything on
есть,
this.
и
At least when I'm on my Mac, I'm never Windows.
но папа, ну ты же знаешь, папа, он очень любит
Standalone
современный большой компьютер.
system.
Чем больше компьютер, тем лучше. И поэтому тогда у меня был опшен, я говорила,
Always
большой.
There's nothing overly
Можно
special.
сказать,
For visual design, I would always
ну, задачи были.
for any like
Поедешь,
development or coding that's really heavy, I would probably use a
ну,
Windows.
с этим делом.
Why is that so? Because
Well,
software is available.
Software,
Говорят, очень долго делать.
it is available, it's just I think you have more control with Windows, whereas Mac likes to be very restrictive, and where they've gone with their
То есть мне того в той возрасте не
user
хватало
interface and
для
everything
того,
is
чтобы
artistic,
сейчас.
so
Плюс
they
там
try to really force artistic values with everything.
в таких ежедневных нуждах, например, заряда, например, это держит 12 часов.
Which is fine.
Мой держит 2 часа, с таким очень-очень натягом. Экран лучше.
Basically it comes down to how you want your UI to be.
Поэтому, потому что у меня последнее время скорее всего,
Yes.
я даже не знаю, с чем это
It's a
связано.
bit different. I mean, NetBeans, when you're nipping Mac side,
Yeah.
But that's an
I
IDE.
cannot use, yeah, it's just the IDE. Java as a whole.
Yeah. Like you could do Java and Java, you know, but you could
Yeah. Trackpad with the IDE, with the trackpad, that's, I can't write that. It's ridiculous. So I have to use this, which is fine.
Oh, I like
It's the
using
workaround, but
I can never work with my search pad. I'm so bad.
Mac is kind of made it simple.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, when I sometimes use my daughters, I'll have to ask her, what do I do? Because I mean, it is different, right?
Like that's a little time, but it's the list.
Yeah, but they're so used to that, they find
Yeah,
nothing
it's
in
good in
between.
the list.
Sometimes when I need two machines, then I take my daughter, I have to do something. Mother Windows is so slow.
Скажи, я помню, у нас когда зимой была еще эти огромные окна, которые...
The other annoying thing is the command. I do it so much when I'm in Windows now.
Yeah, yeah. I do the opposite. Yeah, there is difference, right?
I have a Macintosh at home, like the big all-in-one. I have one of those. And I have this.
Not all our machines are
Our
there.
house is pretty much entirely Apple. The iPhone. all that jazz. But that's very, very tempting. It's planning to rig the entire house with speakers that are connected to an Apple TV.
Oh,
So that if you want to play anything through the house, you can literally play something through the entire house. And even a vintage, not vintage, but antique house. So he's making all the boxes for the speakers, old radios too.
Your dad.
Yeah, 'cause my mother loves the antique look. My dad loves tech, so he's trying to find a happy medium. We also have the lights in our house too, which is really weird. An antique house. Go in there and you can a lot of the lights are automated too. It's weird.
Your dad is in tech.
Yeah. I mean, he does all the engineering for the OPP. And does database management for them as well. Where a lot of my stuff I'm learning or getting help from. However, this semester I haven't really need to ask help from me, which is great. Because at least I know I'm doing it by myself. Unlike the first semester, where I probably should have first of them, at least Java. But
He was a great help then. Yeah, I know he was
Second
asking
semester was
about
very good.
enumerated, and like you said, my dad is, because I didn't want to at that point of time too. You can go too fast because they're learning, right?
it was more evident when we did the card game. That was trying to show them all the different things. It was. I tried going back and rewriting the program, and I did, and it was a lot cleaner, but then I immediately hit a few bugs. Okay, I have actual assignments I need to do. I should probably go do those.
You think you will do that, when you're free time, the free time never comes. Life is always so busy.
Especially now that I have a contract job with Georgia now to do, yeah. I'm a web dev for Steven.
Oh, okay.
I'm working with him now.
Oh, okay. So the code does?
Absolutely. I'm really happy. I get 10 hours a week.
Ой, мам, ну это когда ты не лезь, ну
Happy.
And you're learning, right? That's a big
мама, ну
thing.
что вы меня это вот законтрактовали, ну типа не лезь. У меня, да, мама, я помню, ты мне с 10 лет рассказывала, как писать килограмм в университете. Я так хорошо знаю, не надо. Это рабочее дело.
Is it?
I find this easy.
Я понимаю, ты
When
этим
Java
гордишься, но не надо.
No, Java is
Well,
pretty
Java,
different.
yeah.
Like Java also has its own easier stuff. Like, but see, but this is the easiest to see. Windows Phone.
Yeah, I can see that.
Very easy.
I need to learn more JavaScript.
Mhm.
So I haven't done
I started
any
learning it and
JavaScript.
then because you don't teach it, you lose it. You know what I mean? Like if you're teaching it, then you.
Because you don't have time to
You
learn.
don't have time.
And then stay up on everything.
You just get restricted to what you're doing. In the 6 months of non-contact, we try to do something new, but then when we come back, we're back to where we were and okay. At least I forget. I don't know what to do.
Парка, подожди, парка, что же самое
And now now you're not on it, even on non-contact starting with some of the teaching and
The mom said, well, through the strike, you could just read your textbooks.
Yeah.
All the textbooks I've already purchased are up to date
Yeah.
already.
Already, yeah.
I have Java 8 and we're on Java 9.
But all gone. When I was teaching edition 10, 11th edition is out of the same. I didn't go to Java 9 because I didn't want to at that time. Like even this has so many bugs in 2017 Visual Studio. I've already installed it twice. It's not yet on, like stable. But now I've given up. I said I'll do it in administrative. But it was giving me some bug when I came back and started using it.
Okay, ready? Let's move forward. Right now for printing. So I've written the exit and I've written the I've written the clear with exit. I want to do a little more, but I'll do it after I finish my print. Now, what happens in print? Do you remember? I'll refresh your memories. Of course, you may not remember. You have to first create a print document. You'll say, this is what I want to be printed when I click the print button. But before you do that, you have to create that document. And to create that document, you will need a control from your toolbar. And we'll take both. We'll take a preview also, because I don't want to send it to my printer, and I'll take a print document also. So I'm going to take a print document, right? So I'm going to create the document I want to print. I'll define it. You'll see when you double click on it, an event gets created. And I will also use a print preview dialog, because I don't want to get it printed in a sense. Okay, so what is the use of print document? The print document defines the document you want to print when the user clicks on the print. So if you notice its properties, if you go to its properties, you will see it doesn't have a lot of properties, but that's all it has, like the print page. And the print page, if you go to its events, come back to the properties first, sorry. Okay, here are its properties. So it has a name, which is by default print document 1. You could change it if you like. I mean, I'm okay with it. The name of the document is by default document. Will it generate a member, or the rest are not so important? The name of the document you could change if you like. If you look at the events of this print document 1, there is a print page event, which is of course empty because I haven't done anything. This is the page you want to define. You want to define what do you want to print. Okay, so keep this in mind. This is how you do the printing. You define the print page event of your print document. So you can do it from here by clicking here, or the other way is you just double click on this. See, so what it will create is an event handler for you. So what did I do? I created, and they went into my component tray. They don't have a visual effect. This is part number 1. You can just do one and then go to the other. That doesn't matter. Create a print document component in your component tray by clicking on here. Get it from here, print document. What are we? Sorry, come again. You don't have to drag it to you. Just double click it. It will come in your component tray, right? It's not a visual control. You don't see it on your form. It's not a visual control. Okay. Now double click on that print document 1. And when you double click on it, it will create an event handler for you. The event handler that I was just showing you, the event I was just showing you there. In this, you will this defines the page you want to print. Notice how its name is called print page. So it kind of says the page you want to print. So you're basically defining what you want to print, okay? The contents to be printed or the page to be printed. That's what it defines. It is just defining it. It won't do anything with it. Right? And then of course you can write the sender and so on. That's not in these event handlers, there's not much to say in the sender and the event argument, but you will of course say it. But I mean, I'm not putting it because there's not much to say. Okay, so now it says, what do you want to print? We'll come here. Okay, then we'll do it. So this is because we haven't done it for a while. I wanted to show it to you how to do it. Now this, whatever, when I do it, when I finish it, I'll let you know. Right now I can, because there's not much defined here, but whatever it will be, we will. Right? And then when I double click on the print, now double click on the print. Now what do you want to do in the print? So create a print page document first. And then when I print here, then we'll do the printing. Okay, so what do you want to print here? So this is basically, I'm hoping you've created that preview dialog for me. Oh, why don't I see it? Oh, there it is, preview dialog. So I'm not going to send it to my printer. I'm going to preview it. Okay, so take that. And if you don't have it, I mean, if you've missed it, I got it here in my component tray. That also I did it by double click. So from the printing, I took two things: print document, the page that I will define, and print preview dialog. Okay, because I want to do a print preview. I don't want to send it straight to printer. If you wanted to, I'll show you how to do it. And in here, what I'll do is I'll say, okay, I'm going to use my print preview to its document property. I'm going to assign what you will write in that print document 1. So see the connection? So what you define in your print document 1, I've assigned it here. So of course, now when I do a show with it, This is just to kind of, again, make a connection of when you want to show it, all you will do is show dialog. So what will happen? Your print, it will kind of bring up a page which will be empty right now. And you show this dialog. If you wanted to send it straight to the printer, which I'm not doing, but I'll keep your note here. If you wanted to send it straight to the printer, then this is what I would have done. You would take your print document, one that you've just defined, and print it straight, which I won't do. So I'll put this in 2 comments, but if you wanted to send it straight to the printer, that's all you do. You take your print document 1 and say print. But if you want to preview it, you will do it this way. For now, nothing will come. So if you try to print it, see what will happen. An empty page will come. Because my page is empty. I haven't defined anything in it. So now when you go print, the preview dialog comes up. That's what you said. And now if you want to print, you can always go print from here. So it's kind of saving, you're sending it directly to the printer, comes here. What's on the page? Nothing. Why? Because I haven't yet put anything on my page. I haven't written yet anything in my print page event handler. That is empty. I've done nothing there, nothing at all. And that's what I've given you in that text file. I don't want to type it in. Okay, so everything is ready for now. The most important is the find price. So let's write that. That's the most important part of today. Okay, here is the code now. Okay, what is the logic? Kind of think about it. What is the logic? If the user, there are 9 combinations, quarter pound with any of the 3 types of coffee, half pound with any of the 3 types of coffee, and then full pound with any of the 3 types of coffees. All these prices are defined. Like you go to Tim and you say, I need a medium roast small. It's a different price. You say, I need a small, dark roast. That's a different price. So I have 9 coffees that I can buy. A coffee in any of the 3 weights, another coffee, any of the 3 weights, another coffee, any of the 3 weights. And these 9 prices I want to save somewhere. One option is save them in 9 variables. Poor option, right? Like I don't want to create 9 variables to save my 9 prices. So what will I do? I'll create a 2-dimensional array. Why? I could put it in a 1-dimensional array and I'll say the first 3 are for quarter pound, the next 3 for half pound, the next 3 for full pound. But if I could make something like this, wouldn't it be more easy to read and understand? So I make a 2-dimensional array. I can put the type of coffee here or whatever. So I'll keep all my quarter pound, half pound, and full pound. I'll create 3 rows, and then I'll have the regular one, the decaffeinated one, and the special. The price of this coffee, $2, $2.50, $2.90, something like this. I can fill this up. Now I have an array. I've saved my price in a 2-dimensional array, and then I'll pick up. What did you choose? You chose half pound or decaffeinated. Give me this price. You chose full pound of special blend. Give me this price. And I'll pick up my price from it. Right? So this array is being used to save the prices. It's kind of a constant. It's there. And whenever a user or customer goes and buys, they look up the price from here and it says, here, this is what you have to pay. So I'll use a 2-dimensional numeric array to save my prices, the prices that will be charged of the customer. Plus, I will also save the transactions in an array to be printed out later. So customer 1 bought half pound of special blend at this price. Customer 2 bought quarter pound of decaffeinated at this price, and so on. So prices are constants. You could create 9 named constants if you like, and then you'll have to do an if. There's 9 ifs. There are 9 matches, 9 ifs, and then you can do it. I don't want to go that route. It's too much work, too much untidy code. I'm going to use a better way of doing it. Okay. Double click on your find price and let's start writing find price now. So my first aim in writing my find price is to save. So this will act like a lookup table. It already has prices. I'm going to look up the prices from here, right? So I'm going to save, or let's say store, not save, because save says you're going to do it afterwards. So I'm going to store the prices of the coffees. Okay, and I'm giving you the prices. You can do whatever. Like, I mean, you don't have to use my prices. I can't remember them, so I just took them. So I'm going to save them this way. Okay, so what do I need? A 2-dimensional array, and this is how you define it. What kind of array is it? It's a decimal array. I'm putting some prices in it. My prices are decimal. It's a 2-dimensional array. So square bracket, comma, square bracket. 2 dimensions. One before the comma, one after the comma. So this is my declaration. Now this is an example of a local declaration. I didn't put this price array outside at the module level. I don't need to. It's only this find price needs it. Bless you. Only find price needs it. Why will I make it module? So this is where I'll put my local array. Okay. You can call it whatever you like. I'm going to call it price. Now, since these prices are already known, I have used a new before. Remember, I used a new when I created my transaction, something in which I have to save something. I don't know what. Here, I already have them. So another way of defining an array is you can kind of initialize it right here. You can initialize your array. So initializing an array is like calling new and putting values into it. So it's a 2-dimensional array, right? So each dimension, each row, I'm going to save this way. 3 prices for the first one. I'm going to put it in different lines so that you can see. So by default, see what happens. Kind of think of the structure. This outer one says there is one big array, and that one big array has 3 rows. You could, if you like, you could do this. Nobody stops you. You could say there are 3 rows and 3 columns. You can do this if you like. I'm just leaving it empty because when I initialize it, it automatically will take this size. I don't have to bother. So you can do it this way if you like, 3, 3. Now, what does it say? It says the first line. So you can go quarter, whatever, right? So in rows, I am saving the quantity, right? So row wise, if you want to put it, I want to put it, otherwise I'll forget. Rows are for quantities and columns is for types. You know what rows and columns are. Rows run horizontally and columns run vertically. Okay, so every row, the first row represents quarter pound. The second row represents half pound. And the third row represents full pound. Okay, so that's where I have said rows are quantities. Within each row, I have 3 types. Regular, decaffeinated, special blend. Regular, decaffeinated, special blend. That's how I'm creating it. You could create it any way you like. You don't have to create it like I've done. You could have reversed it. The types come here, the quantities go here. It could be any size, 4 into 5, 5 into 4, like it depends. I only have a 3 into 3. It doesn't have to be a square array. It could be a rectangular array. Okay. By chance, there are 3 and 3. Okay. So the prices are, and again, I leave it to you. You can, if you like, or whatever. The first 2.60, don't forget your M. If it is a decimal array with a floating point number, you have to give M. Otherwise, it will give you an error. You'll have to cast it. Then is 2.90. I'm just writing it with 2 places of decimal because one looks very odd in prices. Okay, so quarter pound regular is 260, decaffeinated is 290, and special blend is 325. Okay, second, let's go to the second one. Don't forget the M. If you do, you will get a red squiggly, so you know it. The decaffeinated one, quarter pound is $490. 560 and 610. Oh, and see, there are my red squigglies. I forgot my M. For decimal arrays, you have to put M. The default is double. You'll say, can I take double? Sure, you could take double, but with money, we always go decimal. With money, decimal is the most precise floating point number representation. It takes 16 bytes. That's too much. But anyway, it takes 16 bytes. The more bytes it takes, the more specific it will be. Okay, the third one. So full pound. Full pound of regular coffee is $8.75. $9.75 for the next, and $11.25 for the next. So notice I have defined a 3 into 3 2-dimensional array. I think maybe by syntax wise it says I don't want you to define it at all. I think maybe that's what it is saying. It's giving me red squiggly. So I think it doesn't even want that 3 listed there. It's going to make its own educated guess. Yeah, you can't even give that number when you initialize it, syntax wise. There was nothing wrong logically. 3, 3 was absolutely right, but syntactically C# doesn't allow me to put that value there. It says I'll do it myself when you're initializing it. So I can do it. It was just coming from some other language. You know what I mean? Like syntax wise, you just have to follow whatever it is. So you have defined a 2-dimensional array a two-dimensional normal decimal array, which is going to save the prices of the 9 coffees. So kind of keep in mind, the first one is quarter pound regular, quarter pound decaffeinated, quarter pound special blend. The second one is the same thing. Half this, half this, half this, right? The half then comes full, full, and full. Okay. I mean, I've written it here. I hope I'm not wrong. Rows are quantities and columns are type. I think I'm good. Okay. There is my, it's a local array, two-dimensional array. You can have dimensions up to 7 levels. And another way of initializing an array. The first one I used the new, I called the constructor and created an empty array of 5. Here I've created an array using initializers. These are called initializer. I'm initializing them. Both are possible. Combination is also possible. Syntax wise, there could be many ways you can do it. Okay. Okay. So there is my array. Now, so my array is ready. This is where I'll pick up the prices and show it to the user. I'll fill that price box from here. Okay. Now, just to show you, you don't have to. I mean, this is because if it comes in an exam or a question, just to show you. How do you find out how many elements in an array? Can you tell me from Java? Do you remember what is the property called? Array name dot length. That tells you how many. Now I could do the same here also. If it was a single dimensional array, I can say dot length and it will give me the how many in the. But in a two-dimensional array, there are number of rows and number of columns. So length will not do. But in C#, I'm sure there'll be something in Java too, but in C#, if you would like to get the number of rows, for whatever reason, you may. I mean, who wants to count? You can do it using a property, and the property is not called length, but very similar to length. You can say the property is called getLength. So length is available when you're using a single dimensional array. It's not length, actually, it's getLength, right? It's not length in C#, it's getLength. But when you have a two-dimensional array, if you want to find out the number of rows, enter 0 here. 0 means the first dimension. First dimension is rows. If you would like to find out the number of columns in an array, I won't use any magic numbers anywhere. I won't. I know it is 3 and 3, but what if I change it? Will I keep changing my code everywhere? I don't want to do it. Let the system tell me how many rows I have and how many columns. So if I add another, after the 1 pound, I want to add, say, 2 pound prices. I put a comma here, I add it. I don't have to change anything else in my code because I'll get the number of columns and number of prices from these variables, and I'll use these variables in my code everywhere. So don't ever use numbers. Again, those are magic numbers again. Don't use the number 3 and 3 anywhere in your code. Because I don't want to do it. Because what if you add more rows or you add more columns? Now I have regular decaffeinated special blend. Maybe I have regular roasted and then decaffeinated and special blend. I can't keep changing my code. Oh, one of the types has increased. Oh, 2 more weights have increased. I don't want to do it. But there is always a way to find out. And this is just for your information, even if I don't need it right now. So instead of length, the method is called getLength. And if you put a 0, it says number of rows. If you put 0, 1, it says number of columns. So if you had 7 dimensions, it's all 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. How many in rows? How many in columns? How many the third dimension? How many the fourth? Then we lose it. We can't go, like, we can't think more than 3 dimensions. 3 is the maximum human beings can, at least I can think. I can't think more than 3. Like, I can work with cubes, but I can't work more than that. So that's how you can find out for your information. I may not even need it. I just wanted to show it to you. Like your length property, here it is called the get length. The 0 says dimension 1. 1 means dimension 2. And then you can go on. For us, because we are using rows and columns, I've called it number of rows and number of columns. Just so that you know, in case you see it in an exam. Okay, some other local variables that I will need. So notice I have not made these as global variables. I don't need to. I shouldn't. Because the whole purpose, you don't know what you're doing then. I need these variables only in my method here. I won't put it anywhere. You've created an array. You've created a list. Let's create a normal variable of that structure type. This is how you create a variable. Like anything else. You put the name, the type first, and you put the name of your variable. Like we do int. I've said coffee sale. You say, what is coffee sale? Remember that coffee sale was a structure. So when I have to build an element, I'll have to build an element of what type? of sale type of coffee sale, and then I'll save it in my array. Okay. Okay. So now let's start the code for find. So what's the logic? What is the quantity? What is the type? Once you have that, pick up the price from here. Once you have all three things, put it in the array. Do the next transaction, put it in the array, and so on. Keep doing it. You can't go more than 5 because our array was of size 5. So we'll take care of that. You'll say, what if I forget? Then an exception will be thrown and your program will stop abnormally. So you better take care of it, right? So you can use an if you like. You can use a try catch because the system also throws an index out of bounds exception for you. You can choose whichever way. But usually you don't use both of them. It doesn't make sense. You're doing an if also and your try catch also. Like use either one of them. Okay. So I'll write both for you and then we'll comment out one. Okay. You can only allow maximum transactions. And remember, in our case, we don't know what it is. I know it is 5, but remember there was a constant and I'll use that constant. So you'll just do something like this. If there was that variable transaction number, there it is. If the transaction number is less than the number of maximum transactions, I'm okay to do stuff. So that's my if, whatever you want to do. I can't go beyond 5 transactions just because, in my case, because my constant is 5. You increase it to 50, it will be 50. You increase it to 500, 5,000, whatever you like. But notice, I'm not using the magic number 5 here. Readability, maximum transaction is a normal English word, makes sense. And flexibility, that if you need to change it, go and just change it at one place. I don't have to change it everywhere else. Now, this is one way of doing it. If you wanted to use a try, you could have done try also. So don't use both, like whatever you like. If you're all aware of it. I'll use try just for the heck of it. So I'm going to do it and I'm going to create a catch block here. And in the catch block, I think it's called index out of bound. Give me a minute, just because it's a little different. Could be, I could be right, absolutely right. I can't remember now. I don't know what it is called. Java calls it index out of bound, right? What does C# call it? Okay, let's try. Array index out of bound, array direction. Okay, array index. No, it's not array index. Let's try index out of bound. There it is, index out of range exception. There it is. Right? So instead of using an if, you can always put it in a craft dinner. There it is, right? Index, put it in a try catch if you like. So if you want to use if, then you will say if transaction number is less than maximum transactions, else I'll give a message on the screen, you cannot save more than whatever. If you want to use a try catch, then we'll put a try catch, and in the try catch, I'll put a message, you cannot have more than these many transactions. But don't use both of them, it's redundant. So choose whatever you like. You can do an if else if you like, you can do a try catch if you like, whatever makes sense. Okay, so I'm doing a try catch because ifs is more common. Okay, what do you want to find out? You want to find out what was selected from the type and what was selected from the weight. Okay, so I'm going to take this variable column because I've set columns on my whatever, right? Take your CBO combo box and take its selected index. Remember, we've talked about the selected index. So 0 means regular, 1 means decaffeinated, and special blend is 2. 0, 1, 2. There are 3 values in my combo box. Okay, now if the user has selected something, that's the most important. So if it is not equal to -1, that means the user has selected something. Then you want to do something, of course. Else you want to say, please select a coffee type. So keep doing your if else's together, then you don't miss it. So you can say something like, I don't know. Give me a minute. Making up messages is not easy anyway. Okay, let's do a message box.show. If you have forgotten, it was a message box.show. Then comes your message. Say something like, please choose a coffee type. Remember, then comes the caption. Now, for your information, in caption, all words, the first word is capitalized. It's just, again, English grammar. So give something that will make sense. So I'm saying coffee selection missing. It's not a sentence. Don't say is or whatever. It's just a caption. Like this caption that comes here. This is what the caption is. So this is your message. Please choose a coffee type. Makes complete sense. This is your caption, which says the title bar. And again, just so that you know, in a caption, the first letter of every word should be capitalized. Grammatically, that's how it is done. Now, if you would like to, and I would like you to show a caption, this is basically the OK button. So let's try a message box buttons. I don't think you want to have yes, no. It's just an information. And comma, the last one, if you remember, is the icon. Now, this is just for information, not error. So we'll use the right one. Where it is an error, say it is an error. And where it is an information, say it is information. So this will come on the screen. It's not an error. It's you're telling the user, please select a. He hasn't said -1 or something there. So there is a difference. So use the right icons. This is more of an information sake rather than an error sake. And don't forget, though I'm not sure, will it work with combo boxes or not? Yeah, it does have a focus. It is a very simple user interface principle to bring the focus back to the erroneous field so that the user knows where did I go wrong. Select all, I don't have to do it here. It was a text box I would have, but bring the focus back so that the user doesn't have to use his or her mouse to go back. You know what I mean? Like make it easy. And since I'm right here, I'm going to do a message box.show. You know what won't happen. So if you have gone out of bounds, so this was like, this will be your else if you are using since I'm right here. So the user made an error here. I mean, he went more than whatever transactions. Again, notice something. I'm not going to say only 5 transactions are allowed. The whole purpose of the constant is gone. I'm going to concatenate that constant here. Only these many maximum. There it is. That's what I mean by saying use it everywhere in your code. So you're telling the user you cannot save anymore because only these many transactions are allowed. So you won't get marks for just declaring the constant. You will get marks for declaring and using the constant. Right? So I don't put the number 5 here. I put maximum transactions here. Again, readability and flexibility. So, and the caption. So you're telling the user only these many are allowed. So you can say something like, what is it? Maximum transactions done. This is a problem only with arrays. If it is a list, it won't ever happen. You'll never go out of bounds for whatever. Now what, again, an OK button. And then now this is an error, right? You're trying to save something and you can't do it. Again, it's kind of, really you can say, no, I think it's an information, but can't argue on that. It depends on whatever you want to do. Here. So notice you can do try catch. If you try to save more than 5 transactions, the catch will happen, right? Now you don't have to give it a name here. You don't need to give it a name because I haven't used the name here. But if you want to, you can always say something like what is going out of Excel. You can't use E because E is already a parameter. This is your array of transactions. You could even have called it trans, whatever. Like, but you don't have to give it a name if you don't use the name. So C# allows you not to, I mean, you can do without it. So I can't think of any. So do you see the structure? You are basically trying something and catch says, oh, you went out of bound. Inside the try, you're checking, did the user select a coffee? So this one says, did the user select a coffee? That's why I'm saying not equal to -1. Oh, wrong place. But anyway. So the column is basically kind of coffee selection, coffee type selection. You can work with the text property also if you like. Nobody stops you. You could have said cbo.type.text, but this is much easier. Selected index is much easier. It's a number, -1, so it's much easier to use. For me, it depends on you. Okay, so if the column is not equal to -1, that means you have selected a coffee. Remember, by default, our quarter pound is already selected. So I don't have to do a check there. That's another advantage of making something a default if it can be made a default. You don't just make a default for heck of saving code. You make a default when it's okay. Somebody is going to buy a coffee, definitely a weight has to be chosen. The type we don't know, but the weight we can give a default. Okay, so you could have given defaults in both places and you could have saved yourself all this checking, but just don't do it for the sake of habit. My aim was to show you because of the tab order it was selected, and I'm doing it that way. Okay, so now what we have to do is we basically have to see what was selected. So let's see what was selected. And let's do a switch now. So either of the three. So pick up your, here comes the use of that selected button name. Right? I'm going to check which selected name. Just more readable. It makes it more readable. So what was selected? And let's do this. You have three options. You have the quarter pound, you have the half pound, and you have the full pound. So take your first case, and it's a name. Okay, I'm just going to write it like this first, then I'll put it in quotes. My second case is taking my half pound radio button. They're all radio buttons, so I know I can just do it this way. And my third case is it is a full pound radio button. These are the only three possible values that this variable can take. There is no other value. So now instead of saying if radio quarter button is checked, do this. Else, if this is checked, do this. Else, if this is checked, do this. What do? When it gets checked, I save it somewhere and then I use that same. You'll see you haven't saved that name. We will, don't worry. For now, only our quarter will work, but the rest also I'll do it. Anytime the user makes a change, I'll save it. Okay, here are the three cases. There is no other case for us. So you can if you like, but it's not a big deal. If it is a default, so if the user did not choose anything, remember what will we go with? We'll go with the quarter pound. So the user didn't change. Whatever was checked is already there. So don't forget your default here. Okay, so four cases. The fourth doesn't have the case in front of it. It is called default. Let it give it that red squiggly for now. We'll take care. Okay, so if the user selected the first radio button, that is your quarter pound radio button, that means your row number is 0. That's how I've saved my prices. Okay, and now I'm going to save everything in my array. So do it with me slowly. So your transaction array, coffee sales, there it is. It was an array, right? At which position? At the transaction number position. That's your index. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to kind of backspace it a little so that you can see it, and then I'll do it. Okay, so I'm going to save what the user has chosen. So that's my array element. Normal array name index, right? Transaction number is your index. In the quantity, remember it's a structure, it's an array of structures. So every element has three parts: quantity, type, price. Quantity, type, price. So at transaction number 0, when it begins, transaction number will be 0. At the 0th position, in the quantity field, save quarter pound. Now, when you're printing a report, you don't want to say RDO quarter. You don't want to say things like that. You want to give a proper heading, quarter pound. So I've saved that. Transactions should be neat, right? So again, I don't know what else to do. That's the best I can do. I can close this, unpin this. I can unpin this. Okay, unpin. There, right? So if the user has chosen quarter pound, I put the row value as 0. I put quarter pound in the array element. And remember, I also have to put it in a list. So remember that sale element that I had created? I'm going to put the same thing in its, you know what? I can actually do this. Just because we are doing, they're two different things actually. But you can write equal the same. You can write one line. You can say this is equal to this is equal to this. I'm not doing it just because they're two different data structures for me. And we'll make a break there. So you have saved the name, the quantity, quarter pound in your array. You have not yet saved the selected type, neither the price yet, because I don't want to save it in every button. The only difference will be what you're saving. Take this code again and put it in your default also. Because default and these are the same. I could have actually moved it down. Put it here also, but change the row to 1 and change the quantity to half pound. So you're saving your transaction. That's all you are doing. You're saving your transaction for printing purposes. And in your full pound, you do the same thing. But again, change the row number. The row number is important because you have to pick up the price. and here. There. Breaks are important, otherwise it falls down to the next case. It will also do the next case. It will execute the next case. So if you don't do a break, it will do this. If this is true, and it will come here. So how does a switch work? Oh, how does a switch work? The switch says it will check which case is true, do whatever is in front of the case. And if there is a break, it will break. Else it will go to the next case automatically. So it will do the next case also automatically. You don't want that. So if the quarter is true, you want to do this too and break. If the half is true, you want to do this and break. If the full is true, you want to do this and break. Right? So I've saved my quantity. In all cases, I have to save the price and I have to save whatever. So this was the end of my switch. I didn't put this statements inside because, I mean, it has to be done for everything. So look up the price now. I know the row, I know the number. Okay. Take your sales price variable and to it assign from your lookup array. Take the value that is present at, okay, now we have to be careful. How have we saved it? What did I say? I said, I can never remember what I do. What does it look like? 260, 290, 325. I've said rows are quantity and columns are type. Columns are type. That means this is all. Oh, I think it's the opposite. I mean, it really doesn't matter what it is, to be very truthful, because at the end of the day, you can do whatever. I'm just looking at the prices, which makes more sense. So I'm taking, sorry about this. I'm just thinking what I want to do. Rows, you can take anything, really doesn't matter. But answers should match. Your and my answers should match. Okay, so if the rows are types, yeah, makes more sense now. See, all the type, the simple type is cheaper, the next is expensive, and the special blend is the most expensive. Right? I'm just going by the prices, nothing else. Even if you want to leave, I've just changed my comment, nothing else. So this is the cheapest. So that is your first type. This is expensive than the first one, so it's decaffeinated, and the special blend is the most expensive. So the prices are this way. So I've changed the rows are types and the columns are quantity. Okay, so keeping that in mind now, you have to take your column here, comma row here. I think so. I always get confused with that. Oh, sales price is not defined. Did I say call it something else? The names does not exist. What did we call it? Oh, spelling is wrong. Sales price. There it is. I thought I had declared a variable. Okay, there. If it was the other way, we would have said row, comma, column. It's not like that's not the important part. The important part here is I'm using the differential array. Okay, so there's my sales price. Now save it. Show this in your text price box. Remember, you had a text price box. Show it. And don't forget to format it, which many of you have forgotten in your assignment 3. Just saying toString doesn't format it. For formatting, you have to use a symbol. The currency symbol puts a dollar and 2 places after decimal, the easiest to use for money. So there is C, there is D, there is P, there is F. There are so many format symbols. C is for currency. D is for integers. F is for floats. How many places after decimal do you want? You can do everything with it, right? All that is in chapter 4, and I've already shown it to you when I did formatting before. So I've shown it on the text box. Plus, I want to save it in my, save the rest of the transaction. And we are saving it at 2 places. Don't forget, I'm saving it in an array. And like, it's not unfortunately, it's just that it has to be done at 2 places. Okay, so take your sale variable and in its type. What do we want to save? Okay, now in the type. You've selected your type from the combo box. Oh, let me show you this, that what I was talking about, doing it together. There it is. I'm just doing it together. You can put 2 equals together. Nothing, there's nothing wrong in it. And add its transaction number. Let me complete it. It will make more sense, okay? In its type. You can use 2 equals together if you like. This is what I was talking about, that you can use one assignment statement here. So you're saying in the type of the sale element, remember sale is what you will put in the list at the end, and in my arrays type also. In both positions, Now you want to get what the user chose. Take your CBO and take its text property, will come handy. So whatever the user has chosen is in its text property. You just assign it in your array element also, and you assign it in your sale element also. And I've just shown you, you can do it in one statement. This is allowed in any language actually, because assignment goes from right to left. Right, so you're saying I want to save whatever the user has chosen. So CBO type was your combo box. Its text property is whatever you've chosen. You can do it in a more complicated way, but I've chosen a simple one. But I'll give you the complicated way if you like. You could have done this. You could have said CBO type, use its items property, because that is where it is saved. Add the position column, more work, but logically there is nothing wrong in it. So you take your CBO box, there is items inside it, at the column position, you take that and you can save it. And before that, because it's a combo box, everything in a combo box is an object, you'll have to convert it into a string. So definitely you would prefer this. It's in the text property, you would prefer it, but you can do this way also. You have to just know how to use it. So items is the name of your collection in your combo box. From that, you pick up the element at the column position, which column you've chosen, and then put it in, convert it into a string and put it in your sale. It is an object. Okay, the third, we are left with one more. Sale.price is equal to, take the same thing, put it in the array also, in its price property, and assign it that sales price that you just created. There it is. I'll put it in a different line so that you can see it. There. And let's put this also so that you can see it. There. So type is complete, price is complete, and the weight I've already put in my switches. I could have, if I wanted to, again look at, I could have put these two in my cases. I didn't choose to, because why should I write the same code, copy paste 4 times? There are 4 cases. I just put it outside my switch because it has to happen for every case. The other 3 cannot happen for every case. If it is a quarter pound, I have to save quarter pound. If it is a half pound, I have to save half pound. If it is a full pound, I have to do that. So I put those in cases, but the common code I put outside my switch. And that's what you should do. Again, this is better coding. Putting it inside each case is not wrong, but this is better coding. So only put it once. The more you write, the more mistakes you're bound to make. Okay, so my array is ready, and also my list is ready, but I haven't yet finished it. I haven't done yet. I haven't. Now, don't forget to increment your transaction number up by 1 for the next transaction. You started from 0, you have to go to 1, 2, 3, and so on. Don't forget that. Plus, to maintain that list that I was creating, which was called something transactions list. There it is. Don't forget to add the sale element to it. So you will either use an array or a list, but I've shown you to use both. Just because I don't want to make another example for list. Whatever you are doing in a list, you can, there are more data structures that are available. I'm only showing you list. There is queue available, there is stack available, there is a sorted map, key value pair is also available. You have to learn to use all these data structures. If you have the right concept, you can put 2 and 2 together and make it. That's what is important in programming. The logic sense and the foundation is very important. Doesn't matter, you're learning C#. If you have to do the same thing in Java, you should be able to do it. If you have to do the same thing in JavaScript even, you should be able to do it. Or any other language. That's why your base has to be strong. The logic has to be strong. Doesn't matter what language you're using. I don't know C# as well as I know Java, but I kind of add 2 and 2 together. I know there is an add method. We all know there is an add method in Java with the array list. I tried add, it came up. I just said add and I put the element. Syntax will be different. Nothing else will be different. You have to learn. There, so now it's ready. So what have I done? Think about it. I check. I don't have to worry about weights because there is a default. I check if the user has chosen a type. I pick the type, I pick the weight, I pick up the value from the price array, and I show the price to the user. That could have been simple. But I also save my transaction in an array, And I also save my transaction in a list because I want to show you how arrays and lists are used. And now comes the printing. How do I print it? Now, since the printing is very tedious, I've provided you with that text file. Please open that text file and copy and paste. I'll tell you where. So go and if you already have it, good. If you don't, please get it from Blackboard. And I also have it somewhere. There it is. It's just a text file. It was just to save the time. I'll tell you where to print it. So find is ready now. You'll say, can you show it to me? Sure. Here, let's go ahead and do it. All that will happen is maybe my prices are messed up. I can never remember, did I write my prices this way or this way? Okay, let's try now. Okay, I have a quarter pound. I have not chosen a type. What should I get? I should get, please choose a coffee type. Make sense? Notice how my box is complete, or my caption is completely visible. Some of your captions I can't even read because they're so long. They're not sentences. You have to keep them short and sweet and complete. So I've said coffee selection missing. Make sense? It's not a sentence. Your coffee selection is missing. No, we just need a caption. Here is your message. That's your message. Write it like a normal English sentence, a correct normal English sentence. See that you use the right icon. It's an information. You could say an error, whatever you like, but try to see what icon is. What should I do here? It automatically has an OK button and it has a cross. So I say, oh, OK. And my focus is back here. I just have to choose. OK, now let's not talk about if the prices are right or wrong because I can never remember. But let's say find price should work. $4.90. Change it to half pound. Uh-oh. Something is wrong. Quarter pound of decaf, unless, no, I don't think so. Okay, something, logic is wrong. Somewhere we've gone wrong. See, answer is wrong. That means something is wrong. Decaffeinated answer is coming wrong. And it doesn't change ever. Oh, 5. No, this is coming because I've already done 5 transactions. Okay, so I have that's a different kind of problem. But the answer is also wrong. So I'll do an OK here. I'll exit and our code is wrong somewhere. See where your code is wrong. What? Oh, here, no. Row 0, row 1, row 2 is right. Column CBO type is right. Where could you go wrong? The logic is here. So
We haven't defined the selected button names.
Thank you. The only, thanks. The only button that is always selected by default is the quarter pound. I haven't changed its name anywhere. Where have I said if you change the selection, change the name? Have I done it anywhere? No. Look at my code. I haven't done it anywhere. I haven't said if you go from quarter pound to half pound, your name should change. I haven't done it. So I have to do that now. Thank you. That was quick thinking. I didn't even think about it. Okay, let's do it now. When the user changes the selection, the name of the button that you're saving should change. Otherwise, of course, your code is not working because every time which is true, only this is true. No other case becomes true. Now, how to do it? Now, stay with me so that you don't lose it, okay? Double click on your quarter pound. I mean, for all 3, you have to do the same thing. You have to take the name of the button and save it. Okay, I can do it in one method. Why? Because each of these radio buttons has a name property. Okay, so double click on it. Okay, so it's called RDO quarter pound checked changed. Right now, I'm going to do a few things. Not that you have to do it, just because I want to show you. Now, this method, I want this method to work for all the 3 methods, irrespective of whether I click quarter or I click half or I click full. In all 3, I have to do the same job. I have to take the name and put it in a variable. What is the name of your variable? Selected radio button. What do you want to put? Now you want to take the name of your sender, whoever is sending it. You have to take the name property and assign it here. That's all you have to do. Right? So let's do that one by one. Okay. So get the sender. This sender is an object. The first thing you have to do is convert this sender into a radio button because they're all radio buttons, right? And then you have to get what property? It's name property. I don't see it. Name is not coming up. It's a radio button. It's a radio. Oh, maybe. It's a radio button. Okay, now it is. The dot name was going with sender. Now that I've said radio button name. So I've saved the name now. I don't have to write an if. I don't have to say if the first one saved this name. Else, if it is the second, save this name. I just took the name property and I saved it. That's what I have to do. Now, second thing, what do I want to do? I want to repeat this code for all the 3 checked changed events for all the radio buttons. I have to do the same job in all the 3 radio buttons. So shall I make 3 copies and double click? No, I can do something else. So I've written one event handler and I go back here. I open the open half pound properties. I go to its events. I look for the checked change event and I say use the same event handler. Make sense? I could have double clicked on it, created a stub, copied and pasted. Why should I do it? I don't want to do it. Copying code is not the solution. Efficient code is the solution. I don't want to write it. You'll say, what mistake can you make? Copy and paste, copy and paste, copy and paste. I don't want to do it. If I need to make a change, I'll have to make it at 3 places. Now I don't have to. I have to make the change only at 1 place. Do the same thing for your full pound. Go to your full pound radio button, to its events, to its checked change property event handler, and choose the same event handler. All 3 buttons are now sharing the same event handler. They're sharing the same event handler. So there are 2 options. Either you write a different event handler for all 3 and copy and paste the code. They all are using the same code. Or a better option is to share the event handler, which looks good enough to me. Another thing that you can do, which is not necessary, but again, just for the heck of it, not for the heck of it, for making it more readable, what I can do is, this name, the RDO quarter pound, is kind of saying it only works for quarter pound buttons. You could change this name. You could say RDO quantity. Let's change it. It's talking about quantity, right? So let's call it quantity. Do you have to? No. But giving it a name more useful makes sense. It just says, oh, I've changed its name. So instead of calling it RDO quarter button, I've said radio quantity. So any of the quantities. You'll say, is that all we do? Now, as soon as you change the name here and you go back to your design, you've changed the name. You go back to your design, it's going to give you an error. Why? Because this name has already been registered. All you do is not a big deal. Wherever your error is occurring, click on it and it will show you the line, the problem. And all you have to do is change it here also. So you change the name. Definitely you have to change the name in the designer file also. You have to say, first you were saying this event handler is taking care. Now you're saying, no, the event handler is called RDO quantity. No big deal at all. Right? So if you change the name of an event handler in your code, you have to change it in your designer file. You could have I could have come here straight and showed it to you, but I thought it was just easy to quantity. Yeah, thank you. There. Done. Save it. I'm good to go now. Everything should be good now. So I've changed the name here. It's in the design. Now my design should be okay. Still. Oh, sorry. Yes. Here it has made 3 connections. I didn't make that connection, but of course, here it has made 3 connections, which makes sense, right? So there is the second one. There will be a third one also. Now I could have chosen to do it together, but it's just easy if you go from one by one here. So that's my third one. Remember, there are 3 buttons associated with it. All 3 names have to be changed. There. I should be okay now. Design. There. And notice this change has been done here too. Since you've changed it, it has been done here too. Now it will work. Now the printing part. Okay. I want to complete it. I have 20 minutes, but I want to complete it. Then we'll run it together. Now the printing part. I've already provided you the printing part here. Please copy it from here. And where do you place it is the most important thing. Remember, you had created a print document event handler here with the print page. There in the print page, copy it inside there. Oh, wait. No. Control Z. No, Control Z. I think, let me see what have I given you in the text file. Give me a minute. I think I've given you the I think the headings are also, oh, wrong file, wrong file, wrong file. I have used the wrong file. What do you have on Blackboard? What is the file called? It's not called lesson 6 then. Oh, lesson 5.txt.
Yeah.
Okay, you know what? I can't remember where it is. Let's open it from here. It was the wrong file. There it is. That's what I'm saying. Something is not going correct. Okay, so here it is. Now it is right. I've copied it. Now go back and place it inside here. Inside. There it is. Let me show you what I've done. It's just printing. It's no big deal. Therefore, I kind of thought I would save time in class. I'll just make it a little smaller so that it's easy. Okay, so look at it. It's just printing, nothing else. I have set up a print font of 12. I've set up a heading font of 14. I've shown this to you before. We've done printing before. I've said, where do you want to start? Right? So left bound, there are 4 bounds, left, right, top, and bottom. So I've kind of set up my page accordingly. I've said, where will you start to print? Okay. And for printing, you use e.graphics.drawstring. That's the method you use. What do you want to print? Coffee bulk sales report is your heading. In which font? The heading font, Arial 14. Which color? Black. At which position? Horizontal and vertical positions. That's all it is defining. Okay. Then I increase my vertical by 2 lines. So I'm leaving a line and going to the next. I'm giving the headings quantity, type, and price. The 3 headings will come on the screen using the black color and Arial 12. Okay. Then I go to the next line. So this is just going to next line and next line. It's just printing as if you were doing it manually. Now here is the important thing, the for loop. There are 2 loops in C# like in Java. There is a for each loop. It is called for each. And it says for each, and look at what it is doing. It is picking up 1 element at a time from the list, like your for each loop in Java, same thing. It is picking up 1 element from this list, putting it in this variable, which is of type coffee sale. You have to know what type of element is coming out. Is an integer coming out? Is a decimal number coming out? Is a record coming out? Remember, a record is coming out. Of what type? Coffee sale. And then I just print it here. I use the print font to print the quantity, to print the type, and to print the price. This is a for each loop. You can use it with any collection. You can use it with an array also. I chose to use it with a list, and just so that I could show you a normal for loop, I've used a normal for loop with my array. I've used a normal for loop starting from index equal to 0. See here, this is declaring inside a loop. This is another type of declaration. I could have declared it inside my method. I chose to define it inside my loop. It's only available for. You will only go till transaction number because maybe you only saved 2 coffees, not all 5. I'm not going till the maximum size dot length. I'm only get length. I'm only going till transaction number. So if you saved 2, it will show you 2. If you saved 4, it will save 4. If you don't go till transaction number, but you go to the whole size, you will have empty records, which you don't want to show. It will always show you 5 records, irrespective of empty or not. And I've used a for loop here. The for each is easier because you don't have to bother about where do I start and where do I end. You can use it with an array also. I've used a normal for loop with the array, and I've used a for each loop with the list. So both loops are available. Right? So this is only printing, nothing else. Now let's try. And then there is something else to be done before I finish. Okay, let's try now. Hopefully. So quarter pound, regular 260, half pound should be a little more, and full pound should be a little more. Prices are right? And these transactions are being saved. Keep in mind, I've already made 3 of them. I go back, I change it to decaffeinated. 490, clear should of course work. Clear is working, right? We've already tested that. I'm doing I can't remember now, full pound with something, decaffeinated. If I try to do again, there, I've already made 5 transactions, 3 and 2. I can't do any more. This is because I've said the size is 5. I could change it to 10 and it will go on. But whatever it is, I can't do anymore. I cannot. Though I'm also using a list, but remember my program is using both. Now if you want to print, so this coffee bulk sales report, quantity, type, price, this is all done manually by me. Where do I want to place them? 2 lines, leave 2 lines. Where do I want to place them? Leave 2 lines. It is doubling up. Why? Because I have 2 for loops. The first was coming from a for each, and the second was from a for. So if you'll have 10 transactions, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then the rest of the 5. And they will, of course, be duplicates. So I've shown you from both. And that's what I wanted to save, quarter pound. So that is the string I was saving. Quarter pound, half pound, full pound. This is the type I was saving. Type was neat enough, regular, so I didn't change it. And here is the price I was saying. And dollar, the C is making the dollar sign and 2 places after decimal. This is formatted out. Right? Now I want to show you something else. Now if you wanted to print, you could print it. If you wanted to close, you can close it. Now, till now you haven't done it, but I want to tell you something else. You should have, when you exit or when you do the cross, you would like to do the same operation, exit. The cross automatically does it, so you've never bothered. But for example, in exit, you wanted to do something extra. Let's do it just for the heck of it. So maybe before the user exits, the exit print report if required. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to ask the user before I exit, I'm going to ask the user, take a dialog result variable, confirm, show a message box to the user, ask the question, would you like to print a report? Right? So you can ask the question and then you can, of course, you can add printing, print transactions or something. Again, captions should be be self-explanatory. And then you can use an OK button. Oh no, not an OK button. In this case, you will use a yes, no button. You can even do a yes, no cancel button. You can choose, and OK will not do. So you can choose yes or no. The user says yes or no, or yes or no cancel. Depends on whatever you want to do. And then this is a question mark. I don't want to use information here. I want to use question mark here. There. Okay. So what all I'm doing is just for the heck of it, because I want to show you something. All I'm doing is when the user is exiting, I'm kind of asking the user to just to say, do you want to print a report or not? Okay. And now, oh, you can do something else also. You can make your, just because there are so many, you can make a default button. So if the user says, you can choose whatever. Button 1 means yes, button 2 means no. Okay. So button 1 is, yeah, default, it will be highlighted. Your yes button will be highlighted if you choose button 1, just because it's yes, no. Yes is before the no. I mean, here they chose to go button 1, button 2. If you had cancel also with it, you could do a cancel and then you can go 1, 2, and 3, whatever you choose. That's not important. My main part is to show you something else. Okay, so the question is asked if the user says no, if the confirm is yes. And how do you say yes? I think you go dialog result. No, you go control space bar dot. Yes will work. Yeah, it will work. There it is. So if the user says yes, come on, convert it to a Y. So if the equal, the two equals are equals. That was assignment. So if the user says yes, what will you call? You will call the same procedure of the print, right? We haven't yet completed that print also. And what was it called now? That was print page. Print is not yet complete. Print. Where are you? Here it is, print. So call this method. Call this method here. So I won't write the code again. I'll just call the method. Here, call the print method. Of course, you have to remove the word send object in front from it. And event. So what you've done is you've asked the user, do you want to print? So I want to show you why am I doing this. Give me 1 minute, right? Now, there is something else you can do in print. Now, just I was looking at it. Do you want to print if there are no transactions? Does it make sense to print something if there are no transactions? No, what should you print? Nothing. So you can do an if here. You can say if my transaction number is greater than 0, then print. You'll say, like, what's the big deal? An empty page is not a big deal for me. Yeah, I know it's not a big deal, but you know what? It's just better. Like, why should you print if there is nothing to print? Else, you can always tell the user. Keep in mind, writing good programs is always good in the sense that you're just telling the user. So when the user sees an empty page, it says, what is something wrong with my printer? Or why are transactions not printing? So this way, if your transaction number is greater than 0, you will say, what if I don't have the transaction number? Because I'm using it in an array. What else can you do? Can you do this? You can check the count of your list. What was it called? Transaction something list. What is its property? I think it's called count. Oh, I don't see it. Oh yeah, it is there. So you can do the same job like this also. If you didn't have a transaction number, you can also do the same job like this also. Is my count greater than 0? Same job. If you were using a list and not an array, you will say, is my count greater than 0? Count tells you how many in it, right? Else, at least the user will see this. You can put a message box.show. There's always a way of doing good things. Okay, I didn't like the word else because I've misspelled it. Of course, it won't like it. Now you can say there is nothing to print or whatever. So there is always a better way or the correct way of doing things. So let's say no transactions to print. So now the user knows that there is nothing to print. Again, you don't have to do it, but it's a better user interface, okay? This is for message only, so you can use a message OK button here. What did it like? Oh, it didn't like this. So put your button and put your icon. Oh, icon is already done. No, it's not. It doesn't like message box. What have I done wrong? That's why it's not helping me. MASS, oh, triple S's. That's why it's not helping me at all. There. So I just thought of it like when I was copying the name of the method. I said, why should I print if there are no transactions to print? I should just say there is nothing to print, right? So this way now when you do the print, it won't print anything. It won't even show an empty page. So you can improve your code. So an empty page is not wrong, but this is better. So try printing it straight away. So do a print straight away. There it is. It says no transactions to print. Better. Instead of showing an empty page, it's better. Okay, now I want to show you something else. Do a half pound, just do a few things. Create a few transactions. See the difference between exit and the cross button now. When you do an exit, it asks, would you like to print a report? And if you say yes, it will print it. If you say no, it won't. But now see the difference. If I do a close, it doesn't ask me that question. Because like now see the difference between the application.exit and the close button. If you want that close to act exactly like your exit button, because they are the same thing, right? This is what you do. Come back to your design. Go to your form, open its properties, form properties. We are talking about form properties, okay, of the form. Go to its event and go to its form closing event. This is the event that takes place when you use that cross. This is the event that gets invoked. So you have a form closing, you have a form closed. Closing means it is closing and closed means it's done. It always confuses me, but they are there, closing and close. And here, choose. Uh-oh. It should show me a list of that and I should be able to pick up that event handler for exit. Why can't I do that? Exit has an event handler, right? Yeah, there it is, button exit.click. I should be, what am I doing wrong? Form, events. It's showing up in the click, which is not what it is. It should show up in the form closing also. That is strange. I mean, I can do a call, but I want to be able to choose it right here. Is it showing in closed? No, that is strange. See, it's showing in click. When you go to click, it shows you all that is available. I'm trying to do the same in form closing and it's not doing it. I want to choose the button exit click here so that when I do the cross, it works like exit. And it's not showing up. Logically, what do you think I've gone wrong? This is the only thing that remains. Rest we've all done, okay? Logically, all I'm doing, so everything else is working, array is being saved, everything else is working. I want to do this, that when the user does exit and it asks the question, do you want to print? I want the same question to be asked when I use the cross button, which is not right now because cross just closes the form. And all I was trying to do is I was trying to go to this form closing. I can do a double click here. This will work, but I don't want to do that. I can do a double click here. It will create a stub for me. And in this stub, I can call this method, that exit method, which I've already written. I can do that. I mean, that's one way of doing it, but I was thinking if it was, you see what I've done? Like it's kind of getting around it, but here. So I'm writing my own code. I double clicked on it and I'm writing my own code. So I have called, this is one way of doing it, but I was thinking it was better to do it the other way. Anyway, let's see, at least this should work. It will prove to you that what I'm trying to do here. So you'll say, how did you get this stub? By default, how did you get this stub? This is how you get a stub for any event handler. In the design, whosever stub you want to get, you go in front of it and double click on it and it will create a stub for you. That's how you create a stub, an empty stub. So my aim was that since in the click method, it was showing me the whole list and I can choose whatever I like. I was hoping that here also it would show me the whole list and I would choose the exit one, but it is not doing it. I don't know why. I could be wrong, but logically it doesn't make, I mean, I don't know. So let's see if it works. So what did I do? I forced the form closing event handler will now call the exit handler. So it will do the same job. Let's see if it works. So the question that exit was asking before should also be asked here. See here. See, it is doing it. But this I had to do kind of two-way. I had to do it by creating a handler and then calling exit in it. I was hoping, and I don't know why. I'll try it on my own. If I say yes, it will say no transactions to print, which is okay. Which is fine, but oh, and the other thing, did you notice something else also? And see, the problem is this now. So I have to figure it out. If I use this cross, it calls the exit, right? The exit says, do you want to print a report? I say yes. It says no transactions to print. I say no. It's asking me the question again. Now, why? Because when the form closes, it's doing two jobs. It's calling exit, which is fine, but it also, how can I explain it? I know what is happening. Let me think if there is an easy way to kind of give you another example and tell you. No, that's not a good example.
Refreshes and tries to close down.
Yeah, it does, but there is a better way I could. It's doing it twice because of the relationship with exit, but how do I kind of, maybe if I make it, and I think this is occurring because I did this. If I was able to just do it from here, let's see if I can get, no, I can't. I don't know why it's not coming up. I don't understand. And that's why maybe it is coming twice. So I've made it work, but it is not working perfectly. So I'll have to think about it. How? The first thing is, why is this list only coming in clear? Because clear is its default. I understand why it's only coming in clear, but it should come anywhere. Like if I go here, does it come everywhere? Yeah, see, it comes everywhere. It should come with every event, and I should be able to choose from the list. But I'm unable to choose from a list here in the form closing one. So that's question number 1. And 2, I know why it is happening. Because the closing is calling the exit, and the exit is happening again. So that's the reason. But how do I take care of that? I don't know. I'll have to Google it and see. I mean, logically, it's saying it was simple. I could choose the exit from here, and I could do it. So there, I don't have the answer. I'll have to Google it and see why that is not occurring. But the 2 reason, one, I understand it. Once I fix this, I think that will go away too. So I leave this here. I have to figure it out because I don't know what is happening. But otherwise, it is working perfectly as it should work. Okay. So let me do this. So let's commit it. So this is your final. And let's sync it. And push it. Okay, so everything is available on GitHub, but I still have to figure out this thing, and I'll have to Google it. I don't know like why it's not working, and then I'll let you know, okay? But now you know that there is a form closing event also. There is a form closing event also, which is basically associated with that cross. Okay, so you can write code for any of the events. Now this will, till I find an answer.